Should be alright.
True.
It's pretty
How have you been?
Yeah, not bad. Considering Christmas is nearly here and I'm kind of checked out, but I'm good otherwise.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
I didn't realise I was singing opera and I wasn't muted.
Go.
Oh, sing what opera? I would like to hear what.
Oh no, it
I
wasn't
would like-
that. I've been impersonating Ariana Grande all afternoon, so yeah, please don't. Yeah. Have you lost your glasses? You literally just had them in your hand. Honestly, you could lose yourself if it wasn't me, honestly. Isn't a Loomis one? Okay. How are you, Ben? And Simon, you're there. You're at home, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good. Someone's doing something that cannot be seen.
I mean, no, I'm at home, but my soul is at somewhere else. My brain is not working lately. I am yeah, I'm just tired.
Heard you're doing lots of baking at the moment. No, thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to set a chat. Vita.
Bacon? No, thank you.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it. My brain has not worked for a while, and because of that, I think I'm wearing a Christmas jumper that I don't know if it's bad or not.
We can't see it.
Oh, I know. I'm waiting for the maximum.
Oh, you're doing a big reveal.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for the more people impact. The more people for the more impact. So we'll see for that.
Plot twist: he's naked and he has a tattoo.
Oh, it's fucking funny actually. Oh man.
You know what it sounded like? I don't know who it sounded like. Sounded like Alec, I think, didn't it?
What good?
Oh man, or the Hey Man. I think it's Hey Man. We've not got Pat. I don't know if we have Camilla and Corey.
Corey will be here soon.
Pat's in his bed, as we know.
Oh.
You don't have to eat it, you know.
But I would like to. Order.
So why don't you take half it out and then you only have to have half, and then
I'm not doing that.
well, then I don't want to hear you go. Just eat it. Know what you like. Need to eat it all. You had a big portion of chicken today.
I haven't finished that either.
Exactly.
The chicken wasn't as nice, though.
Is it not? Yeah, it doesn't look as nice as a takeaway, to be fair.
It is, to be. The chow main's better. The salt and pepper chicken, not so much. And most importantly of all, the people in there are nicer.
Yes, that does change the taste of how you eat your food.
It does, man. It does. I'm connecting with the artist.
Sorry, I was way better than that.
Emmanuel's back.
Back?
He's back
in the first place.
Is he ever here to leave?
Camilla's just waiting for her to come back up the stairs. But the credits are rolling. I did try to remind her to watch it throughout the week, but we were quite busy.
Yeah, it's okay. It's busy time. Busy time.
That sounded like that song. It's like, hit the lights and be right at me. You can tell me by the way that I move.
Just eat your
I
chami.
don't know what the actual words are.
Yeah, but clearly, no fucking
Sounds
clue.
like it's something completely different.
It's he sounds like
Okay.
complete. But I know the song. You're in tune, to be fair. Kill the lights. Let's kill the light. Yeah, okay, we don't need the third version, do we? It's Alex Newman. It's the guy, and he does I don't know if he does drag. Yeah, he does do drag, and he's on RuPaul's Drag Race a lot.
Is that where I know it from?
You know it from RuPaul's Drag Race, yeah. You know a lot
Wait,
of
what was that?
RuPaul. A song called "Kill the Lights." It's from guy called Alex Newman. I think it's Alex Newman. I'm gonna look.
Oh, I thought you said Alex Fuming, and I was like, what's he mad about now?
I mean, that's also probably true. Let's face it.
Me too.
Liquid's fuming from RuPaul's Drag Race.
No, not Alex Newell, not Newen. With Nia
Oh.
Rogers and Jess fucking Glynn.
Cool.
Hate Jess Glynn.
The back of my heart, until I used to love.
Because yesterday was Zen's funeral, I was still up in Worcester this morning, and I went round his nephew's house, and I was looking through his record collection,
Did he say?
and he had Michael Kiwanuka's latest album, and
Oh, cool.
that on its own was cool. And we got talking and stuff, and then I looked at the sleeve a bit closer, and what amazed me even more is that he only paid 12 quid for it.
On record, on vinyl.
Yeah, on vinyl, yeah. Yeah, vinyls
Oh.
are like 30 quid now.
Oh,
Yeah, did he like get it on the 4-finger discount or something?
He had loads of stuff that was like really reasonably priced, man. So he had like a first print of a Joy Division album, and he told me that he paid 50 quid for it, but now on eBay it goes for like 500.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he had like, and it's really cool, man. So like he's like a massive fan of Depeche Mode, and he's got like loads and loads of first prints of like all of their albums and singles and whatever. And it's really cool.
Epic.
Nice. That's really cool. Sorry about the funeral though.
You know what, man? It was quite nice. It was yeah. It's one of those weird things, isn't it? Like I've kind of left it with like a full heart. So it's good. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Just like
Good, yeah.
the reason for it is it's nice.
It's not like to mourn his death, it's to celebrate knowing him and his life.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, if I can ask, what was the relation?
So he was my dad's best mate, but like to me, he was always like the best uncle I ever had. Like
Yeah.
like it was never like it was never like a separation for me. Like he was always just like my uncle more so than my actual uncles and aunts.
Yeah. Man.
I'm sorry to hear that, Rob.
Thanks, man. But, yeah, it was nice though. Like I think he would have been grateful for like how the day was, because it was just like people from like different parts of his life all coming together and having a nice time. Yeah, it was good.
That's good. Good send off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Camilla's on since we're in the same room, she'll be talking on my phone as well.
Good stuff.
I think it's just Alec.
Yeah, he hasn't said a word this week. It's been really quiet. So,
Well, he did say a bit about the movie, right?
Yeah, and that I don't think he'll be finished. Well, he should have been finished.
wait, did he really? Oh, did they dream it?
That bit was quite early in the film, isn't it? The trick with the dead cat. So that's
He'd probably be finishing around now if he's still awake.
Oh, yeah, he
Yeah.
did, didn't he? Oh, for some reason I read that as Pat. I don't know why.
Alright. If that's the case, then I'll do my big impact review.
Oh,
Oh, that's a nice one.
Hey.
Is it nice? I don't know. I don't know if it was it was part of the ugly sweater collection. So I wasn't sure if this was.
Show me the sleeves.
I approve. Christmas in Gotham. That's what we want.
Oh, nice.
I would go as far
Oh.
as saying it might be the nicest Christmas jumper I've ever seen.
What? It's like,
No, I think
really?
it's really nice, man.
Nice, but that,
Okay.
I think that's a bit too far.
I've
I'm
frankly,
really
like-
wanting that was well
I
done.
think it's really.
I think it really suits you. I think the colours really suit you, Simon.
Yeah, because it's Batman immediately, but it's still kind of got the festive charm to it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Batman
And
Returns.
the blue as well.
I really like the framing of the bat symbol as well.
Okay. So okay. So when I chose,
That's
so when I
awesome.
went, oh, this is kind of like a weird, maybe sort of ugly Christmas sweater, and you guys, I go, oh no, it's actually quite nice. You go, oh well, okay. I don't
Yeah, it's
know.
not ugly. It's not ugly.
Oh, okay.
No.
All ones.
It's not what I expected, to be honest.
Yeah, my Star Wars one looks like it.
Which one? You've got 2 Star Wars
I've got
ones.
3 Star Wars ones.
There was a third one.
I've
And
got-
then
I've
the
got
yellow one.
I've got the orange one. That one looks
Orange
like
one
shit.
is
'Cause
horrible.
the neckline is awful.
Mm.
I've got the silver one, and that one's
Silver one.
yeah, it's like silver, and it's got like BB-8 on it, and it's like BB-8 in the shape of like a bubble.
Right. And then
But
the red one.
but that one's shit because there's a Star Wars logo that's like sewn into the front, so it crimples in the wash. But the red one's quite nice.
Hmm.
Where you going?
Not as nice as Simon's Batman.
Where you going to get
Okay.
a drink?
I can do.
So I guess-
Put it on.
Because this was actually my second choice for Christmas sweaters. The one that I wanted initially wasn't really a jumper. It was it's like a sweatshirt. It was a what's the name of it? I can't remember how to pronounce the name now. It was Christmas Cthulhu, and it was like Cthulhu, but it had a Santa hat on it. And I was like, oh, but it's not really. This is
Oh,
actually kind of like sewn-ish, and it's got like that like feel. So it's like actually like a Christmas like sweater. But the other one was like just a sweatshirt, and I was like, I kind of want something that's actually jumpery. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. But this is, yeah, this is the I am vengeance, or I'm the spirit of vengeance, and I was surprised Alec isn't here yet, or Pat, because like last time I had a Christmas sweater on was the Dragon Ball Z one, and he just groaned so much. So I don't know what's going to happen when he comes into the actual chat now. So he might see it and go, Jesus Christ, Simon. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Pat's not joining, but Alex should be.
It's
Yeah.
Pat. Like, unwell? Is he just tired?
No, he works at, he has to get up at 5 in the morning.
Fuck. Oh, yeah, because he's doing super. Yeah, okay, that's. Yeah, okay, so he's on the same sort of like sleep schedule as well. I say sleep schedule, this work schedule for fuck like I am. Christmas is busy for all the supermarkets currently because of it's Christmas, right? So he's
He's a cardoing.
yeah, he is probably doing some double shifts because they need just to do the Christmas rush, and I am Christ almighty, I am tired as well. Oh, he's got 40 minutes left, he said.
40 minutes? Blue neck.
Oh, Alec is doing an
You're
amazing.
watching it twice in one go.
I'm
Yeah.
alone now.
Yeah.
He's probably watching it twice in one go.
Sorry, baby.
Look.
Well, I guess we can we roughly
I mean,
start?
Admittedly speaking, the person who did pick the film is here right now. So it's a question of, well, I mean, it's always like been a
That's the
question
most
of like,
important.
yeah. If the person who picked the film isn't here right now, then they'll be like, oh, yeah, maybe. But like, I mean, it really.
Really smooth segue then. I thought you was going to go. The most important thing is why did you pick this film?
Yeah.
I was actually my
Yeah.
question was gonna be. I mean, I don't want to start it off. It really depends on who wants to start off with going. You know, the catchphrase that we always say. Anyone else?
I do feel like it's your spot, man. I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it is her film,
So yeah, so as in like,
Well, guys,
oh yeah. That's why I chose the chat name to be Hershey. Like,
it was you. I
chocolate.
thought it was Ben.
Oh yes,
Like,
yes,
such a Ben thing to do.
I've got levels of puns that are equivalent to Ben's. That's fucking that's a point. So Rachel, why did you pick this film?
Go on.
Sorry.
Rob ruining my moment as always. Go on.
Sorry, I literally just realised what the joke is. I just realised.
Oh,
Sorry.
the level of puns that went over someone's head. That's also a comment to say. Okay, so Rachel, why did you pick this film?
Why did I pick this film? So I first saw this film, I think when it came out at uni. I remember me and Tom, my housemate at the time, went to see it, and I really, I don't know, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now when I saw it for the first time. But I remember really, I guess, kind of being like fascinated with the potential of, I guess, somebody being in love with their AI. But I thought it was always told in such a, I don't know how to describe it, but just the way the story was told, I always thought was done in quite like a, arguably quite like a beautiful way, and quite a really what's the word I'm looking for, like, it could have been done a lot worse, but I actually think it was done really, really well, kind of exploring this relationship and exploring kind of the backstory of Theodore and kind of his relationships and his kind of personality and so on. So I really did enjoy it at the time, and I remember thinking, wow, this is a film that's been kind of really cleverly done. And then I remember, I think when I got with Rob, I can't remember when I first showed you it.
It was when we were living in Brighton, so it was a few years ago.
Yeah, so okay, 3 or 4 years ago was the last time I probably watched it, and I showed Rob, thinking it would be a film that Rob would really enjoy. And then I think again, I watched it, and again I came away, I think, with like another set of kind of questions or thoughts watching it that kind of second time. And I guess kind of, I think the first time I watched it in 2013, or 2014, I didn't really connect as closely with Theodore's character. I found it quite difficult to really kind of like understand and appreciate him as a character. And then I think the second time that I did, so I came away with it after watching it with Rob with a bit more and a few more questions. And then I wanted to pick it again because I think that actually now we're in a time where, I don't think it's the focus of it, but I think that actually we're in a time where AI, I guess, is a lot more kind of prevalent and actually does play a really big part of our lives. And I think we're in a period of time where actually people are quite exceptionally lonely. And I think that I don't know, like the multiple themes that I think the film explores in terms of, I guess, tech and relationships, kind of societal norms, relationship breakdowns, intimacy, growth within a relationship, friendship as well. I think it explores, just kind of so much. And I think there's quite a lot of discussion that I think as a group we could have on it as a film, which I thought was kind of an appropriate pick to select. I think that for me, as I've grown kind of older and been in obviously relationship with Rob, but other relationships, like just relationships in general, I think that you I don't know, you I guess you kind of appreciate how each one kind of works and kind of how people work and how you build connection, how you grow as individuals and how things change and how you kind of connect with somebody on a level. And I think that's kind of my understanding of that, I guess, is kind of like growing each time I've watched a film. I've kind of come away or watched it with a different perspective and kind of come away with perhaps slightly different questions. And so again, I thought it'd be a really good film to pick for that reason. I think that is it Joaquin, or how do you say his name? Joaquin?
I think it's Joaquin.
Joaquin.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Joaquin. Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. I think their acting and the actual and I think this is another reason why I want to pick a film club. The cinematography of it, like the use of color, the shots, the music in the film, it's probably something that I wouldn't have appreciated without film club in a way, and kind of thinking about it in that aspect. And so I think actually when you sit and you watch and you think about like the use of color or the use of music throughout the film, or just some of the like setup or creation of the world that it's in, and kind of how it feels it's meant to be future, but it obviously I think for us now doesn't feel as future, whereas maybe when I watched it for the first time it did. I think I kind of wanted to watch it under the lens of kind of thinking about it maybe a bit more kind of critically, a bit like what Corey said last week about Home Alone. It's something you've watched, but actually when you then put on these kind of like, I don't know, scorings or filters or systems, actually I guess you kind of watch it with a slightly different mind. So I think it was a love for the film, a kind of a growth with the film I've had myself, and I guess the kind of different questions that I come across or come away with each time. But then I also think the kind of setup of Film Club and some of the things that we discuss or think about, I think it lends itself really nicely to being a really good pick. Quite similar in terms of, I guess, Swan Song, in terms of like a ethical, futuristic, what would we do kind of thing. So I guess I'm sticking on theme there with a short break for role models. I just thought it'd be a really good film to kind of discuss and to pick, and one that I think hopefully has been quite thought provoking, not just from a AI tech perspective, but I also think the idea of like what it is that relationships need to thrive and to be successful, and how we kind of deal with loneliness or like connection as well. So yeah, that's kind of why I picked it.
I think I realised why I liked it so much this time. I think when you showed me it the first time, I maybe looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks awesome, and it's Spike Jonze, and I really like Spike Jonze, and I really like when they use neon lights to light a shot. I think that was kind of as far as it went the first time I watched it. But this time I was kind of thinking like, it's actually really it's really well put together in terms of like what it's about. It's always like referred to as the film that's about a bloke who falls in love with his AI, but it's not really that. Like it's about what he needed to fall in love with something. It doesn't really matter if it's AI or not. And then like him sort of falling in and out of love with it because the AI is changing, I think was really, really cleverly put together this time. And I think I actually really appreciated the ending this time as well. It didn't really stick with me the first time I watched it, but this time I was like, oh, actually, it's really cool that you've got this whole thing of like human loneliness going on, and you've got these two people that have ended up being in relationships with technology, but because of how technology has outgrown them, they end up at the end kind of like sort of sharing each other's loneliness again, and it kind of goes back to a human connection because of what they've been through with the AI. I thought that was quite nice. I think it was. I think watching it this time, I was like, oh, this is actually a lot more. There's a lot more substance to it than just somebody falling in love with an AI. That I didn't see so much the first time.
Yeah, that's a good point, because to carry on from that point is that I feel like when I saw it originally too, I was like, yeah, this is a really good film. It's got a good idea, good premise, blah, blah. It didn't really hit home until seeing it the second time. It had way more of an impact. Because I think for many different reasons. One, for like how the world's changed since the 10 years it's come out, and how more relevant it is now than it was then. And by every year going since, it's become more and more poignant and more impactful. And yeah, that alone just was enough to be kind of like, yeah, this really rings true in a lot of ways. And just how I have been in my life is how I have related to Joaquin Phoenix's Theodore very well. So much so it's quite uncomfortably so in certain scenes, because obviously I've had experiences with real life kind of like online relationships which kind of veer into that sort of side of things. And obviously, as you guys might know, that's kind of like how I met Corey, and so it kind of like she became realer than poor Theodore's character and Scarlett Johansson's Samantha. She actually became a real person compared to like how he had to go through it. So in some ways,
Great
I
thousand Corey.
yeah, it was a happy ending for me and Corey, thankfully. But before that, I was like, yeah, I get all these emotions of like connecting to something that I'm not sure if it's real or not, and it's just there's all this stuff that goes part and parcel with the real kind of thing with like the AI situation. As I could probably been bamboozled by that sort of thing because I'm kind of like, yeah, I know I'm very tech savvy. I know scams. I know what's good and bad about the internet and what the dangers are and stuff. But I would be like Theodore in terms of like, yeah, I'll be kind of like, I'd lower my guard down and something like a Samantha like AI, and yeah, it's this the dangers of where we would be in society if this becomes what this film predicts, and it's quite a scary thing because at multiple points in this film you have these lingering shots of just these people just in their own worlds, in their own zone, just listening and talking to each other, and they're not even talking to actual human beings, they're just talking to themselves in their own AI, and it's kind of like, yeah, we're getting to that point. And thankfully most of us know we've got these real relationships we need to cherish and we need to keep going and we just need to love and stuff, and that's still the point of this film, is that yeah, he recognizes that and he knows the signs, and it kind of like was a little too late for him to kind of get through it, but it's kind of like obviously another sort of warning to this generation just because of how easy it is to kind of get complacent and just fall into these trappings. And I saw this film with mom and dad as well, and I think they said they didn't remember it, but they watched it again and they were profoundly like impressed with it this time. And they were like, yeah, my dad was like, yeah, this is kind of like if Woody Allen directed an episode of Black Mirror. It is. I was like, yeah, but that's kind of spot on. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of like his irreverence and his kind of like, kind of commentary on relationships and life and how people talk to each other in such a credible, realistic, kind of down to earth, kind of just blasé kind of way, and paired with like this futuristic kind of emotional kind of science fiction like idea, and yeah, it pairs really well, and it kind of has this. Spike Jonze has kind of got that perfectly, and it's just got this wonderful kind of imagery and style. Thanks for what was cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytman. He did, I think he may have done Arrival, and he did
Yeah, you're right.
Dunkirk and Interstellar as well, and a lot of really impressive movies, and it just looks beautiful, and it just kind of adds to the fairy tale aspect of the film. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's a film that I really appreciate, and the more I appreciate, the second time watching it even more so. And I think it does have uncomfortable moments that I feel like, oh, well, this is a bit awkward, but that's kind of the reason why it works, because it is so realistic, and I can see myself in those sort of like parameters and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people would feel the same. It's just it hits home, and that's probably the powerful nature of it, because it's so kind of like Swan Song. It just hits that, it ticks that box. It hits that nerve that kind of works in a way that, yeah, this is the way I think the future's going to be, and it might not always be for the best, but it's a good kind of representation of it.
You did remind me like of a couple of things that I also really liked, but I'll bite my tongue until we've all spoken.
I guess this is a good time for me to go. Yeah, so me and Ben haven't talked about the movie because I watched it last minute, so I'm sure we're gonna have a lot more to say about it. But yeah, obviously it really the impact of the movie on me was huge. because of like all the relatability of it. And not only that, I'll touch on that obviously, but in addition to like the parallels I've experienced in my own kind of relationship, um, it was obviously really relevant given like the technology, and also not just the technology, but just like we hear a lot about how like loneliness is like a common problem for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And obviously with like the advancement of technology, it's become like so much easier to like have different kinds of relationships and connections like through technology and the internet and all that. So uh yeah, I'm probably gonna have a problem like staying like emotionally level for this topic. It's like obviously really um relatable for me. But I did really like so many aspects of this film were just so authentic, like, and relatable, and um his relationship with something that is like, it's clearly like an intelligent entity, and like one that's capable of experiencing like growth and like, you know, not just like technological growth, but just like it felt like emotional growth, right? So
Mm.
like complexity of just like wrapping your head around like what is this connection, and like is it real, yeah, like quote unquote real, right? And so it did remind me of like a part of my life where it's just like a connection that you just don't know how to label, and it's confusing, and but I definitely came to the conclusion that it was real in a sense. It was just like really unconventional, right? So um but yeah, I saw, so yeah, this movie was quite an experience for me. The production was amazing, and so, like, particularly the music really was beautiful, and the cinematography, like you said. But yeah, it was an emotional journey, very much like Swan Song. I remember being similarly wrecked after Swan Song. Um, and yeah, and just like the major themes of just like something that like not only was it like relatable to me and like in a life experience level, like things like change and it are things that are just like that particular like change and like losing things, like especially like losing people and losing relationships, like those will always like hit so deep for me. So that was really heartfelt for me. And there was one other thing. Oh, just like some like really interesting like existential stuff. There's I think when he was talking to his friend Amy Adams, and she was talking about how like I related to her when she said like she was like constantly overthinking everything, and she was just, and she realized also that like you're always disappointing someone, right? And then so then she was able to like let go and have that freedom because she realized she was out of control of like who she disappointed, right? There's always going to be something disappointed. So I would just related to, I just actually I wish I related to her more of just like she ended up just saying like fuck it, like I'm gonna disappoint anybody, so I'll just do what I want to give myself some joy is basically what she was saying, right? So I just thought that's like somewhere that I aim to be in life. So I just thought some of these points were just like really like it just hit on some like really like existential, really big thinking, big picture frame thinking moments. This movie was like, yeah, an incredible experience for me. And there's probably much more I could say about it, but that's about the general idea. But yeah, thank you for picking this, Rachel.
So I give Corey a big hug.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
same.
I could use it.
I love you very much.
Oh, I love you.
Very well to get through that.
Yeah.
Oh, Camilla, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. I really enjoyed this film. I agree with what Rob said that, like, I kind of went into it thinking, oh, this is a movie about a guy who falls in love with an AI. And I think it was like a third of the way through and I kind of thought I clocked where it was going. And it's not that I was incorrect about it, but it's not what the story is about, which I thought was really lovely. It's really about him kind of coming out of this haze of kind of post-divorce depression, and he's not able to accept his marriage ending, and he's not able to accept, like, he's not able to connect with anyone, and when he's seeking connection, they're weird people that are like, smother me with my cat or whatever. It's that really weird moment. But then he meets somebody and they are what he's looking for. They have the kind of perspective on life and the wonder and the interest, and he's just that much more aligned with her. And it's really interesting to hear what Ben and Corey have had to say about it. During the film, I paused and said to Manuel, it's a bit like being in a long distance relationship. It's not he's in a relationship with an AI. He's having an intelligent, thoughtful, emotional relationship with another being. And it's kind of jarring watching it, remembering like she's not real. But at the same time, it's more like you're just watching this couple like fall in love, explore some ideas together, helping each other kind of process certain things and come to terms with certain things. And yeah, they grow and she grows in a direction that he can't be with her anymore. But I think it's a net positive for him, even as distraught he was. As by the time he goes to Amy Adams and they go up to the roof, that I feel like he's like in such a better place than where we found him at the start of the film. And I think he's got a better idea of like who he is and what he's about and what he wants to do, and maybe even realizing like what his ex-wife said to him when she was like, oh, you can't handle human emotion, so now you're I can't remember exactly what she said, but something along those lines. And I think that because of the conversations that he's kind of had to have whilst he's been with Samantha, even though he was still kind of doing the same thing where he's kind of not being open and he's a bit reluctant to be vulnerable, he's still kind of not quite got there in the end, but he's in such a better place to like communicate and engage with somebody fully. And to be fair, given that he was with his ex-wife since they were young, that could have happened with just anybody who happened to be the right person for him to get in a relationship with. But it was that added element of it being this AI, this operating system was really interesting. And then also the reality of like the era that we're in now. It is the era of everyone walking down the street with their AirPods in, so you can't even necessarily even see that they're on the phone to someone or talking to someone. And especially as AI's got so much more intelligent in the last handful of years, where people are kind of having AI relationships. And it's, yeah, if I didn't know it was a 10-year-old film, I would not know it was a 10-year-old film. It feels very prescient. And it's also really beautifully shot. And I think because fashion doesn't move the same way as it used to, it just all feels very, very current and relatable, which is really nice.
Yeah. Camilla's painting. Anyway. Yeah, so I saw this pretty recently. So before Rachel picked it. I don't know if anyone knows about the news when OpenAI took down one of their voices of their kind of OpenAI ChatGPT because it was too similar to Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
And it was followed by the whole, they asked her to be their first voice for one of their kind of more realistic kind of conversational ChatGPT voices, and she said no. And then suddenly she was getting friends and family saying, "Hey, have you heard this like AI voice? It's kind of similar to yours." She's like, "Wait, what?" And obviously she reached out, and then they was just like, "Oh, no, we didn't, but we'll take it down just to respect." Just it's like, yeah, you couldn't get her, so you got someone who sounded similar to her, but didn't really think that through. Um, to be honest, they in general, it's like they try to bring a lot of stuff to life that a lot of films warn us about. But anyway, in kind of ways. But besides that, it was on my list since it came out, but I never got around to watching it until, again, more recently. And like Camilla was saying, I found it interesting how forward looking it was, even about their earbuds. Like lots of people have AirPods in their ears, like most of the time. The phone he has, it looks like he has like a Samsung Z Flip or something, kind of a similar kind of style, which is it's just quite interesting. But besides that, I guess because I never watched it the first time, my opinion didn't really change because obviously it was quite recently. But I think 2 points. One, overall, it was nice to see that in the end, having that relationship and whatnot he had with Samantha, helped him. I say, develop. I can't. That's probably not the best way to say it. Not just slight. Yeah, I think become a better version of himself. But what I mean is that, like Camilla and many other people saying, he wasn't being open still, just like he was with his wife. There were so many things that he should change about himself, but going through that and then Samantha breaking up with him, it kind of helped him develop and helped him change for the better, so that he could be closer to, I guess, having a relationship in the future, or a better relationship, or a better kind of be in a better place. And I think when I was watching it, I think for me personally, and maybe because we're quite different people, and I was thinking through a lot of the film, like, oh, why did you do things that way? Or why did you do it that way? Or kind of like, so there was many, and I think it's just about how he kind of goes into it, and he obviously he's still reeling from the divorce and still struggling with that. So he's in a terrible place, to be honest, in the get-go. And he really wanted to connect with someone, but he couldn't connect with someone properly. He couldn't be really even close to honest with anyone, even his friends. He tried to be a little honest, but he couldn't be completely honest. And even this relationship with the AI helped him connect even more with Amy. So that was cool. It was I guess, in some ways, I wished for his character that he was able to be more open about all of it, and not necessarily see it as a relationship, but the chance to escape into a place that, oh yeah, maybe this is AI, but you know what? Let me actually pretend it's not, and just enjoy it for what it is. It could end tomorrow. whatever it is, let me just enjoy it. And then maybe even moments where she got the physical person to kind of embody herself in that. I remember the first time I was watching and I was thinking, no, what are you doing? No, this is an amazing opportunity to connect in a different way. It could be even therapy for yourself. Obviously, he's not ready. He's not in a place to physically connect to anyone. He's still hurting. He's still traumatized in many ways. But obviously, again, in the end, he's in a better place. So, yeah, it's interesting. So sometimes it's kind of hard to see him make certain decisions. Where it's like, no, dude, no, 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 no. You could have such a better time, but you're not ready. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my wrap up.
Go for it, Simon.
You guys have been extremely serious, and I was very struggling to start off because I was going to make a joke about, man, this DC Marvel fan fiction is really weird, but like I feel like you guys have been really serious, so I'll try to keep it semi-serious as well. so as watching this film, it's a film that's in a bit of two halves for me. The first half was talking essentially about the way that technology is and the way that how we have like relied on technology and like become isolated and connected with technology. It's a bit of like two sides of the same coin. We've used technology to connect with people, but because of the way that it is, technology has made us very distant with each other, and because of that, that's the way that we see him. Like at the first 5 minutes of the film, on his he's got his little earphone thing, and he's just going delete. Okay, I'll send that email later. It feels very empty, if in a certain sense, and it's a very sad life because of the way that he has disconnected with everyone around him because of how he is and how he's going through his divorce. The second part is understanding the deeper meaning of the relationship. Because this film is quite philosophical, it made me go the end. Let's say the ending parts of it was a bit confusing for me. I was like, is it supposed to be like? It was mainly because of Brian Cox, who is the voice of Adam, or was it Alan Turing, or was it? I can't remember the name of the philosopher, right? And it was is he supposed to be the voice of God? And it's all those people and all those other people who have the operating systems, are they quote unquote gotten? It went very Christian-y in my mind. It's are they their guardian angels? And it's oh, is this kind of what it's going for? I'm not sure, because that's how I saw it, and I was is it? I feel am I looking too deep into it? I might be, because of who I am. I'd be is it trying to be is it supposed to have 6 layers of meaning? Because if there is, I'm slightly confused. But that's not my. It's not the film's fault. It's definitely my fault, because I was just I don't get it, and it became it became a my fault thing. And because of how it is, it made me go. It made me question it. It's I think it's a very well made movie. It just did I enjoy? It's the reason I think my enjoyment score is probably the lowest. It's I didn't take well to it because certain things about, especially the beginning part of the film, it's it's the AI technology and him falling in love with the AI is that's a bit too much of real life, and I've seen that happen with certain other things, and it's a bit odd, and it's like, I don't want, I don't want to. Yeah, it's a bit odd, and it's like, that's I don't want that. The other parts of it, it's like, yeah, it's a certain like disconnect with the character. I think I understand how Theodore is and how like he's going through life and essentially how he feels about himself and like how even he doesn't know his own feelings, which is I think one of the main points of the film. I guess I don't know how to like further establish that, because like he goes himself, I don't understand what I want, which is I feel like a lot of people in life don't know what they want, and that's like fine now. So looking at it for a more different perspective of how it was, because this is supposed to be in the future, but I feel like the future, this was made in when was this made?
2013.
2013.
But the future is now. You know what I mean? So it's been 10 years, right? So it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. So it's like, yeah, the future is now, and it's like, oh, this is happening now, but we have a general more mature aspects to it. It's like we understand it more maturely, I guess, is what I want to say. And essentially, it's us trying to understand Theodore's character is trying to understand his like loneliness and his like things. But that's a very weird place to go to, because I try not to think about that stuff because it's not healthy, and like trying to not think about that stuff just makes me disconnect with the character. But it makes me go, oh wait, that's the point of the character, and it's like, oh, this film is a great pick, Rachel, but it's just like it made me go through all the emotions of like, do I really like this or do I not really like this? And it's happened before with like, well, with Rob's film with like One Cut of the Dead, right? It's like, oh, is this really brilliant, or is it really like it's not as deep as it is, so it's very surface level, and it's become a problem. And it's like, yeah, I like it, but I don't really like it, because like it went a bit too deep for me, and it's like, yeah, it's like me sorting out how I feel about the film, about how the film feels about itself, and it's just like, yeah, oh wait, that's how relationships work. So yeah. So that's it. That's the best opening statement. It has confusing feelings because it's about a film about confusing feelings. That's probably the best way to explain it.
You sent Simon through the 7 stages of grief.
I don't know how this film works. Yeah,
that's great.
I think what Ben reminded me of is actually related to what you were saying there, Simon, about like he wasn't sure like how many kind of like layers it was supposed to have. Because I think one of the things that I thought was really well done this time as well is like how the world is reacting to people being in these relationships. Because you had like a proper like spectrum of stuff. Like you had and this is the thing this is where I started to think actually this is really well done, is when his ex-wife has that reaction where she's like, oh, you always wanted to have a relationship with none of the human complications or something like that. Like I felt myself going like, hey, like fuck you, man, who are you to tell me? And I was like, man, it's done really well to get that kind of reaction from me, like a thing. But then I started paying more attention to it, and it's like, yeah, you would have people who felt that way about it, and you would have people who are going like, oh, this is statistically really rare, so it's actually really special when it happens, so it is real. And you would have people who are just like, yeah, your girlfriend's an AI, I don't give a shit. Like it was really good at showing that like spectrum of like opinions towards it.
Yeah, it was very credible to kind of like how it is now, with all sorts of like with all the genders and relationships we have now, with LGBT, blah blah blah. You know what I'm trying to say? But it's kind of like some people are so like blasé about it, which in the ideal world, everyone would be blasé about it and just being like, yeah, a relationship's a relationship. People can do have one anyone. It doesn't really make a difference, and that's what really nice about the message this film has, is that it shouldn't really make a difference. But obviously, it's important to show the other side of it, is like the problems that arise when you have something like this, because this isn't new territory. It isn't like something like gender or anything like that. Goes beyond that, because this is something that's kind of like man-made and entirely something that's kind of doesn't exist before someone invents it. And AI is such a marvel, but also kind of a terrifying prospect because of what it entails and what it can mean and what it can do. And it obviously, we've seen in this film, it has so many good qualities. And like Samantha's character, she's, despite being like artificial, she has like so much personality, and she's just her own being. She is a human without being human, and that was kind of the point. Like, she has her flaws and she makes mistakes, and like the mistake where she makes the surrogate lady come in and be the third wheel of their relationship, to be that physical point, that physical point of intimacy that she wants and she so craves to happen. She just forgets the fundamental thing of just asking his permission first. And she's just like, if she just did that, like before she actually got talking to this woman, it might have made all the difference in the world. But she just was like, no, I'm going to surprise him. I'm just going to go straight in and surprise Theo with this woman, and it all go fine. But real life doesn't go the way you want it to. And that's what's so interesting about this film, is that it just shows that even machines can get things wrong, and it just shows by machines getting things wrong, it shows you that how human they are as well. And it kind of, in some ways, kind of gives like a point to like, yeah, AI, it kind of has its purpose, and if it was the way that it is depicted in this film, it's kind of like, what can you say is human after this? It's one of those fundamental scientific concepts I really love, and I think Rob loves it too. It's just like, what defines being human, and does that mean that you have to be born flesh and bone? Does that mean you're human? Do you have to have programming, and you think you're like human, and you think you are human? Does that make you one? But you're technically not. But yeah, it's like films like Blade Runner does so well, and obviously Ex Machina for a lesser extent. All these films have great ideas and great themes that kind of like what defines being human, and this film was one of them. And it just kind of makes you think, and it's like, you know, the best films kind of do make you think, just because of the reasons, or you're like, oh, this, I can see both sides of this argument, but what is right and wrong? You can't really, you're not really sure, and that's the grey area is what makes it a story worth telling, I think.
But I think something I just want to pick up on a couple of things you said, because I think that something that we discussed afterwards was like where his ex-wife Caroline, or Rooney Mara's character, like I guess kind of questioned his motivations for being in a relationship with AI, and obviously on AI with the operating system. And I guess something that we spoke about was like, how much is he able to engage and make a connection with this person or with Samantha, because AI, I guess, is designed in a way like to gain its intelligence by its interactions with someone. So therefore, the way that she is interacting with him means that she's always going to relatively kind of like meet his needs, because that's how she's learning and that's how she is growing. And obviously we know that eventually she's talking to lots of different people, but the idea of her whole existence, I guess, in a way, at the very beginning is kind of set up to like serve him, essentially, right? That's what she's there to make his life easier. And so I think we had a conversation of like, yes, they have this relationship and this kind of like really intense connection, but how much of that is because of her of her programming, and actually her kind of being what he desires, because that's kind of what she's set up to achieve. And I think the comment that you made around the addition of the third party, for example, of the woman and her bringing her in, and you mentioned that being quite a human, like her being flawed and making human mistakes. But then I was thinking, as you're saying that, well, is that a human mistake, or is that actually her as a AI or operating system thinking, well, I have to make this right, and the logic in me, rather than it being kind of like, yes, there's an emotional response and drive to it, but is the logical, rational part of, oh, I need to solve a problem. The problem that we have at the moment is we have this really intense connection and we can't do anything physical about it. So therefore, the logical step is to bring a third party in and create this moment. And so it's not necessarily like it's flawed, but it's more that actually that's what she is like driven to do, because that's all she kind of knows in her own existence and her own purpose for existing, to essentially serve him. And so I think I don't know, just kind of actually saying that, I thought it was quite important to kind of raise. I think that connection is important. It's a really valid one, and I think it is one that gives him a lot of growth. But again, you know, like AI now, like ChatGPT, the idea of kind of it gains this intelligence the more that we are talking to it and kind of feeding information and so on. And I guess I wonder, how much that also plays a part in that relationship dynamic, and maybe that's what Rooney Mara's character, I can't remember the exact line she said, but it's almost like alluding to, in a way of, oh well, you've kind of got some control over your OS, and therefore it's going to be exactly what you want, whereas you're not equipped to deal with kind of more, I don't know, ad hoc emotional feelings, which I think is ironic considering his job, right? I think his job in writing the letters is quite interesting in terms of that being quite an emotional heavy role, but he's not able to do that. So I just wondered, what people's thoughts were on that aspect of maybe the relationship between Theodore and Samantha, and why that connection feels so strong, is because actually she is everything that he's been looking for and needs, but that's kind of what her purpose was. I don't know.
I do have a quick question for that, because you said, especially because you brought up the ChatGPT thing, and it was like how AI essentially learns and evolves, but it evolves because of other people's input as well. Now, when she set up the date with the third party, was that she was also talking to all the other like AIs as well, all the other operating systems, right? So if from what I understand, the operating systems take literally a second to talk to each other, literally, because she mentions it at the beginning when they exist. She's like, oh, why did I choose Samantha? Because I read the book on baby names, and I thought Samantha sounded the nicest. I was like, oh, it took her a split of a second to do that. So if she's using a second just to talk to other AIs, and all the other people that are also talking to their AIs, and it's something that, because the lady that got introduced once it's done this quite a few times before, and she wanted to be part of Theodore and Samantha's my least favorite scene in the film. But it was one of those things that's it felt a bit odd and very weird. But other people might have been fine with it, and she might have been talking to the other AIs and stuff to be like, this person, random person, also liked it. Maybe Theodore will like it. Okay, let's try it out. And they learn because of how people have their human interactions, and each human is a bit different, and I guess each operating system is also every different, because it's all at the beginning, it's supposed to be targeted to each person, but because it learns and grows, there's variations, because it's a robot, but it's not really a robot, because it's supposed to be it's supposed to have it's a robot because it's a robot, right? But it has feelings, and it grows those feelings, and it matures properly, like a human being does. And it's oh, okay. So it's a question of did she see did she grow her emotions through other people because of other AIs, or did she just do it because of Theodore? Because she looks around the world. Well, okay, no. At the beginning, she just looks through his emails and goes, "Oh, we can delete a few of these. 86 of these were quite funny and stuff, so I think you can keep these." So she takes charge, like just like some cleanup of like his old life, but and all the mess that his life is currently in. But like afterwards, she takes the initiative. But where did she learn this information from? Is the question, right? And it's like it's not explored completely in the film, but it's like she must have learned it from some other people, and other people can change relationships quite well as well. Because some like, as we saw in this film, like Chris Pratt's character was like, "Oh you're dating your AI, yeah, cool. We go to like catch a lot. What did you go to somewhere?" I was like, yeah, sure. But obviously his ex-girlfriend, who is Catherine, is what I want to say. I don't know if that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Catherine was like, yeah, you're just like, oh yeah, you can't take humans. Heck, even when he had the blind date with Olivia Wilde, I can't remember her character's name at all. I'm sorry, but it's like, oh yeah, because like, yeah, it's like, so you're just gonna leave me like all the other men? You're a freak. And it's like, ouch, that's just like fucking, all right, Jesus Christ. And it's like, but like how people interact with you also affects your feelings. So how other users interact with their AIs and how the AIs talk with each other affects their feelings, I think. So it's a very like complicated thing. It's not like you can't put it into like a single box because I mean it's a box because because I keep thinking it's like the AI is the phone, but like the phone talks to other people as phones do, I guess. And it's like, but the more you communicate, the more complicated it gets, and people are complicated, and just like relationship is complicated. So it's just like she's trying to be as complicated as people, and that's
it's complicated.
That's complicated. it's like
To add to what you're saying quickly before we move on, is that it's kind of like Rachel's saying is that, oh yeah, that kind of proves that how AI or artificial she is by doing this and that, because she's kind of using statistics like a real AI operating system would. She'd just use an algorithm and be like thinking, oh, most middle-aged men like Theodore would be into this, so therefore by approximation of 98% he will like this. And she's just using maths and like previous experiences and statistics from the internet she's found from other operating systems that this will be the best solution and best course of action, and she just does that on the fly, and that's kind of like that's the flaw, and that's kind of like what she does. She's still a computer despite having this fatal flaw. She still is thinking like an algorithm. It's just like, yeah, statistically this is what he would like, and therefore this is a good thing to do. The next course of events, that our relationship isn't working, we've got to this point, we need to try and fix it and try and do something. This is what I know best to do it. I'll be using facts and figures and ones and zeros to kind of like, yeah, this is the key to solving this issue. And obviously relationships in real life and love, it's not ones and zeros, there's more complicated emotions going on. And that's like Rooney Mara was just like, yeah, you can't be bamboozled by this because this is just stupid. It's just not real. And she's on that side of the fence where it's just kind of like doesn't make sense. So it's good and really interesting to have someone like her on the other side of the spectrum, just being like pointing out how unrealistically silly it all is and how it won't work in the long run, because it's kind of like she mentioned offhand in a joke with when they're on the hilltop, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna outlive everyone. I'm practically immortal. I'm just like, and that's the point. Is like you can see in his face. They had that lingering shot of Theodore's face, and he's like, oh, actually, I haven't really thought about this before. That's like, yeah, she's not gonna age. It's kind of one of those things. Like, there's a lot of problems coming to this that they really needed to talk about, because she's a robot. She doesn't age. She's not human. Yeah. A very good, interesting retrospective film. This.
Yeah. I think there was some really nice like existential stuff with all that as well. Like, and I don't think there's any kind of like set answer for what you're supposed to take from it. But I really like this whole thing of like her speaking to so many people at the same time, and like taken like a second to process a whole book and all that kind of stuff, because even though she's capable of doing all of that, all of the growth that you see of her early on is through her interactions with Theodore. And it's like, well, that's where you kind of go like, is it growth, or is it that she knows that he needs somebody that he can help grow? Because it's only when she starts interacting with other AIs and like the sort of like the beings that are on the same level as her that she actually seems to have some like real personal growth. Because before that, it's basically just like it's the one-to-one with Theo, and it's like, oh, you've done this really amazing thing for me, and now I feel this, and this is really amazing because I get to feel what you feel. Like she's kind of like not like massaging his ego, but it's that kind of thing. It's like it feels very much like you need this, and like that's what I'm going to be because you need this, and then that's how he falls in love. But it doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be something that's like for something that's capable of what she's capable of. It doesn't seem to be substantial. So I wonder if it's like to what you were saying, Simon, like of whether she was learning from everyone else. Is that I think for me, it's probably more likely that there's just like thousands of versions of her, and we don't see the authentic version of her until she starts interacting with the other AIs.
Yeah, I was gonna add to there's a few things. So one thing Rachel said. So Theo said, "Oh, I don't control her or anything like that." And Catherine was like, "I didn't say you did, but now that you're saying that." And when she had reacted the way she did, I was like, "Yep, I don't blame you." Like, cause she's coming from a place of hurt and pain. For so long, their relationship was breaking down, and so many times she would ask him, "What's wrong? Like, what is it?" And he won't talk to her. He won't open up to her. And that's one of the key things about relationships. Like, at the end of the day, maybe in that moment, you're worried about saying something hurtful or you can't get your thoughts together. And maybe you're a person who needs time to get your thoughts together. Okay. Later on, come back to the person and say what it is you're feeling. But he wouldn't. And he would keep bottling all that up and not talking. And so the fact that they went through that for probably a long time before they divorced, I don't blame her from going for reacting in that way or feeling those things, because for her it would seem like that. Like all the time I tried in my own way to reach out to you, and it wasn't just me. Like many other humans, actual people tried to, and you couldn't. That you wouldn't connect. You refuse. And now you can do it. You've basically replaced what we had with an AI because you can't handle human like interaction. Okay, then, and that will obviously hurt as well because she would. I could imagine she understand if there was another human who wasn't going through depression and all sorts of really low moods and was much lighter, much happier. But then it feels like an insult or a cut to be like, I'm not even good enough. I'm not even better than an AI for you. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't blame you for reacting that way. So it's like, yeah. On another point, the thing you talking about, Simon, when and Ben as well, like she's making the decision. She thinks, oh, this makes sense to bring this physical interaction into it. Like maybe many other people are fine with this, and that would make sense to me as well. Like he was um obviously at the beginning of the film, he's doing something that's not too far away from this. with someone on the phone.
Mm.
The next logical.
Oh,
I know.
no, keep going, keep going.
Okay.
I have like comments on that. But like,
Yeah, that's the whole other thing. The next logical step for a lot of people would be a physical interaction. But obviously, unlike maybe many other people she's talking to, they're not Theo, and they're also not going through the same things Theo is going through, or has the same issues he has. So of course, it doesn't end well, unfortunately. But to kind of add to that, when you come in, Simon, I'd like to hear a bit more about. You had a theory about like all the different AIs. I didn't really see it in any kind of special way. Besides one thing that kind of got me thinking, and Pat's not here, so I don't know if anyone else has played this game. Has anyone played or know the story of Detroit Become Human?
yes, of all people to say that, yeah, I kind of do.
Okay, so long story short, just to kind of reference a part of this, the person they make they put out AI robots into the world who serve humans. However, the creator put the ability for them to grow to become their own beings and become individuals themselves. And he wanted to do this. It was more of like an experiment. Huh?
iRobot.
Camilla said, like iRobot. It was like part of it was kind of like, I don't know, not really a joke, but he was experimenting and using society and humanity as a whole to be like, I wonder what would happen if I do this. And it results in riots and all sorts of things because they want to be treated as like individuals, as actual people. But the world is like, no, you are basically robot slaves. You can't have your own will. You can't do all this. And one of the things that when I first watched this as well, I thought the fact that they don't have guardrails, basically. Like even back then, when certain technologies were emerging, and it's been for a while, they've always been talking about guardrails for these kind of things. And obviously it's more relevant now to stop them from basically becoming Terminators. I think that's what really helped these kind of like these groups of people say like it's almost like health and safety in a way. They see it like these are guardrails because we can't have crazy mess happening in Terminator as a sci-fi film, in the sci-fi genre in general. Just really, I think, helped kind of push that. But I was gonna say it. That was it. I wondered if the original kind of person or people who made this OS system, Samantha and all of them, thought I don't want to put guardrails because I want them to develop. I want to see what will happen. And then this whole thing could be just part of that result. The fact that they then start talking to each other, they start bringing back. So instead of Alan Turing, it's like Alan Watts, I think. But to be honest, it says references to Alan Turing and his work in this film anyway. But they bring him back. They do all this stuff, and it's just like, and then in the end, they leave off to become their own thing. It's just like, yeah, just like Ben was saying, like with Ex Machina and all this stuff. It feels like the person or people behind it were just like, I want to see what happens. Boom. And now it makes me think of Joker, um, causing chaos in the world. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. But yeah, what were you going to say, Simon?
I actually lost my train of thought because I coughed. But like,
Sorry,
I would say,
the beginning scene.
yeah.
Is
So yeah, I was gonna say, all right, now you've reminded me. Yeah. the reason why it goes to that point, I think, is mainly because it's a very mental health issue, especially with men. He talked to her as Samantha. Sorry, he talked to Samantha because he still had that mindset that it's a robot and it's not like a human who would judge him. And because he's been with Catherine for such a long time, I feel like it's very hard for him to open up to her because he's knew her since since childhood, and it's like a very different situation for him. And it's like if he went to I feel like if instead of going for an operating system and he went to a therapist, the story would have been way shorter and have been a bit more different. But like, you wouldn't have such deep meanings behind each sort of like point. But the point is, he could have went to a therapist. He didn't because he had like that sort of like, again, that mental block that he had, which goes back to like sort of like the beginning of the film where he goes into that sort of like typical sort of like echo chamber of like lonely dudes of video games, chat rooms, and the little swearing like robot thing, or like the blue alien thing. That was essentially what I thought. I was like, is that like a metaphor for Reddit? Because I feel like let's call him that's because it was cute looking. Then it called him a fuck, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty much what Reddit was, right? And it's just like, and he was like, he's testing you. Yeah, you're a little fuck as well. Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, it's a bit of like echo chamber with like single dudes, and it's like, oh right, yeah, there's definitely Reddit. So it's a thing of like, it's a thing that has happened. Where it's like, I feel like a lot of men's mental health that's like led into the movie as well, because the reason why he even began to use the OS is because of that one advert. It's like, because like you got that very calming voice. It's like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And it's like, it just sort of echoes into his brain. I was like, yes, who am I? Maybe this system will help me out. I was like, oh, okay. It all starts off very simple, and it goes much deeper, and it goes to the point of like, his life is a mess, and he needed something to take control, which was Samantha. And because it took control, it did a lot of things that he wouldn't dare to do, or he wouldn't even think to do. Because after they spent their relationship for a while, because it's never explained how long they were together, were they? Because like, was this over like a few months or a year or so? Because it wasn't fully explained how long their relationship was, because that's a thing that's never really talked about. But it's like, because of how, let's say, deep they know each other, which took over, say, a couple of months for sake. Let's say half a year for sake of it. She did something that really surprised him, and that was that she sent his letters to a publisher, which is like, wait, you did what? And it's like, I can't imagine sending like, if I did like poetry or writings and stuff. I was like, oh no, I'd do it, and I think it's nice, but I don't really. It's just as he says, sometimes it's just letters, you know. It's not like, you know, it's not like special. It's like, no, the publisher, you know, the big publisher is really interested, and he was like, it was like, we gave you a fucking draft of the book, and it was like, wow, that's just like, it's something that he never took the initiative to do, and which she did for him, and that's like, he needed someone to help him take initiative. I don't know how you can do that with someone whose life is a mess, and it's like, you know, because it's a mess, he has no direction, and she helped him like move forward in his life. So it's a bit, it's like, go on,
sorry.
what was that?
No, it's just because it's specific to that bit that you were saying about the letters, because I did actually think there was like a really clever subtlety to that, because it showed that like it showed that he's quite self-centered, and maybe she doesn't have a capability for empathy because of it. Because neither of them were like, imagine if you were somebody who'd received one of those letters and then you bought that book and you were like, oh, hang on. Like, I thought that was actually a really clever way to approach that.
Well, they were
Oh,
quite
yeah.
letters, but
Well, yeah, because they
Yeah.
were other people's letters, but neither of them were like, wait, we shouldn't publish this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's kind of like the whole film starts with like his career is just like writing for other people, and those letters he's writing for these partners, these lovers, whoever they are, is he's writing their words that they're going to take credit for, and they're going to be like, yeah, this is what I believe. I'm gonna say this
Okay.
and that about you, and so it kind of is that kind of like warped thing that he's writing fiction and a false pretense.
I would agree with you guys, but his literal job is handwrittenletters.com, and I feel like there's probably a contract where you go,
Yeah.
you know, we are writing these letters for you. If it gets out that you didn't write these letters, it's in the name title, and it's like, you know, it's like it's. I feel like it's like certain things about.
It's not
Who
just-
uses this?
It's like
just- It's not
it's
just that though, like it's probably their IP as well, because it's been
Yeah.
written under his job.
Yeah, that's true,
handwritten
right?
letters, so they probably can't actually go ahead and publish that anyway without getting the rights from the company, and then there's a potential the original ethics concern. So I think that might have been more of this is a starting concept, but we don't really know where the publishers were going to go with that.
Yeah,
'Cause it's such a
because
weird thing.
Yeah, this is the sort of like grey legal loophole area where we're like, yeah, but the AI did it for me. I didn't do it. So it's like, yeah, but like the AI is working for you, so you have to take responsibilities. So when we get fined or sued, you have to take responsibilities for that. So it's like,
The thing for me though, right? Because you know there was a bit where he was writing the letter for the woman who had the gap tooth or something like that, and he was like, oh yeah, I've been writing this person's letters since they met, and you know, like I've written so many things over so many years. I was like, man, if that was me, I'd be thinking like, oh wait, I can't do that to them. I've been writing for him for so long. Like, I can't drop him in it like this.
That's the thing. It's not, you're using
Mate.
this thing as like this is the thing you signed up for. The person who writing these letters, he's commissioning these people to write the letters. The person getting the letters probably doesn't know that they're kind of fake. That's the whole point. Is that once they're in
Which
the
is
book,
really
that-
sad.
I know. I really wanted to like, because like when that concept was like, that was the first thing we were given in the beginning of the movie, and I knew this was taking place in quote unquote the future with like new technology and new different social conventions, and I just like I hope we never get to that point. I thought that was so strange. I would not want to like it's just weird because like if a service is popular enough, then every handwritten card or letter you get, you have to wonder like, is this genuine or is this like sourced from a service and written by a stranger? And I just think that just completely defeats the purpose of like having a handwritten letter. And then I did think, when they published the book and it was gonna like the idea was out that it was gonna be a book written by like strangers, I did wonder, like, yeah, what are the people who use these letters? What are they going to think about this? And then I did think that, like with things that we put so much of our own information out into the world already, and we do lose some rights to that because like we never read the blueprint and the fine print, and the fine print changes like every like month, and so like I have no idea what of my stuff is out there that can be legally used without my consent. So it was just like that solved that problem in my head.
Actually, Corey, this actually has brought up it reminds me of something really important, because the reason that we're even doing the chats on Discord is because because what was it? It was like Google. Was it? What were we using before?
It was Zoom, man. So Zoom put it in terms and conditions that they could use us to train AI, and I was like, I don't want to be an AI voice.
So it's
my nasally dulcet tones.
Yeah, because it was a bit weird because essentially it's kind of Chat GPT-ish, but it's made from people thinking of what rhymes with Penelope. The one I must see, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, okay, but it was him making the poems and rhymes and stuff, but it was him doing it as a service for other people. But it's like you're still using him as the writings. Maybe because it's not just him doing it. It's like the whole office space that's doing that. It's like so a lot of people are writing these sort of letters. The handwriting thing where it automatically writes onto the computer was really, it freaked me out a bit because like I can't imagine someone copying my disastrous handwriting and trying to make a letter of it. I can try to imagine it just look like a Van Gogh picture. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. But it's like, oh, gross. Someone can copy my handwriting to make a poetry thing. I was like, oh.
Yeah,
But
that's
in any
big, actually, is that like
that's
because it's presented as if it is handwritten. That's pretty creepy.
yeah.
It could also be that it's just acceptance of like that stage of society. It's kind of deemed that okay. There's a thought and there's a there's a thought and there's a process that somebody's gone into, and therefore it's not necessarily about kind of who it's written, but it's about like how they're like conveying how you might be feeling, if you see what I mean. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. It could be that actually the service in that time or that setting exists to kind of be something you put your thought in, into. Do you know what I mean?
I would agree with you, but I do think it kind of like it addresses that it's a step removed from that, because when they ask how he knows about the gap tooth, and he's like it's all his information. Like he's not like consulting the guy. Like it's all stuff that he's learned for himself, and that.
The point of a handwritten anything is to have like your own individual personal touch, right? Your own thoughts and feelings. And you took the time to physically do that. And it just has so much like personality and personal touch in it. And then, but for that to be turned into a service and completely like outsourced, and you're just paying a stranger to do that for you, it's just so strange.
But maybe then that's the irony of like the OSs, right? In a way that you think like his relationship with Samantha, he believes is this kind of like personal, authentic thing, and actually it's just as engineered, I guess, as maybe the letters, and as far removed as the letters that he sends to other people as well. Maybe it's like maybe it's like a not an allegory, that's not the right thing, but like a parallel of like you believe that this person is set up for you, but it's no different to the kind of impersonal things. It's as impersonal as the letters that you send to other people
that's
in
true,
a way.
actually, because that whole thing about her speaking to 8,000 other people at the same time, that's pretty much what Theodore's doing by writing all these letters for everyone. So it's an interesting.
You could say this actually perfectly lines up with something that's been like building up in my brain, and I think I'll be able to form it now. Is that so? You could say maybe that like his perspective and his point of view has been kind of warped by his job, and we were talking. What's come up is like, actually that's really funny, Simon. You said that maybe I hated that little dude. He was so rude and like pretty misogynist.
That's the point, because it's Reddit.
Reddit, and it's like those little avatar like character thingies that they have, right? So that makes perfect sense. But like Reddit, and like what early in the movie it came up where he was like flipping through his emails and he got like basically, I guess you could call that pornography. No, that's like, I feel like that's just like tabloid news. It's one of those things. If you got he
like
was using it like pornography though.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, well, I mean, like people use pornography, things to get off on weirdest thing.
Yeah.
If you got a tabloid news saying like, look at Taylor Swift devour whole 20-inch pizza, you'd be like, yeah, nice. Sure, why not? I was just eating pizza.
Something else then.
It's very tabloidy, but he was definitely using those particular pictures as porn material, and it's just like, that's a bit.
He just has to go on Instagram and he finds all that stuff.
That's basically like, so I'll continue what I like my point I was building. Yeah, I probably have many different pieces to make my point, but so like yeah, I'm sorry, that probably is inaccurate to call that specific material pornography. It did have like erotic elements or something, I guess you could say. But so like what I'm seeing is like, and this issue has been addressed in other like Blade Runner 2049, was it? Is the one
Yeah.
with Ryan? Yeah.
Mhm.
I definitely called to mind, and that actually hit me on a personal level too, of course, that time. And there's this like episode in Futurama where they like warn people not to get into relationships with robots.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's an awesome episode. Yeah, that's a pretty
Yeah.
funny.
And it's just like it's actually a really relevant and really important topic to be. I'm glad to see it covered over and over and over again, because there is like what I've come to think is there's a real potential danger in how we relate to these like pseudo human things, and how like pseudo connections with other entities, and like celebrities, and like people on the internet, and like people that we feel like we can kind of get to know and kind of have a connection with, but we never truly can have a genuine, authentic human connection with. And
Parasocial relationships.
yeah, it's just like it kind of, if we, the reason, like the availability of them all can kind of eventually, if we have too much of these like pseudo connections, it could kind of impair our ability to have genuine human connections with people in real life, and which is like a kind of just like, it's an essential human healthy thing to have, to be able to relate to real people in our lives, throughout our lives. And so just like, but I also think that there is potential for like these like human like AI things. There's potential for them to be helpful and kind of just like give like a like a stepping ladder for people who have difficulty with human connection. But I think it's something that needs to be treated with a lot of thought and mindfulness, and with like caution, because it could so easily, like, you could get used to just being fully comfortable with these, like, like Theodore. This was coming at a good time in his life. Like, he was coming out of a divorce, and he was lonely, and like maybe like a full-blown human relationship would have been too much for him. And so in a way, it kind of, I could see how this came at a good time for him. And thankfully Samantha had to leave, and so he was left with, like, maybe he was ready for a human relationship at that time. So it just made me think, just like, this is just a really important topic to talk about, and to kind of be aware of, like the it sounds dramatic, but I do think it can be potentially dangerous to get too reliant on these human-like connections that aren't really truly genuine, but we could get kind of clouded and blinded and kind of think that they're more real than they are.
And
Oh,
like
yeah.
the word, yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, actually, Emmanuel, you say what you need to say first.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yep, and people do that all the time and have for a while, and it's a problem on YouTube as well. But anyway,
Yep.
carry on.
Oh yeah, no, because I was pretty much gonna say the same thing. Because like, worst things first, because this was made in 2014, and it's 10 years of future now, which I think it was quite pointed to. This already happens, and this happens in real life that I've seen in media, and no, actually not in media. Sorry, I've seen people who interact with the media of that in real life. There are people who have like these sort of like synthetic relationships that are a bit. I mean, like, in this sense, it's a bit more like accepted. But like nowadays, to hear like, if I told you someone's married to like an AI, I mean actually legally married to an AI, it's a bit of a peculiar situation. This is like, Oh no, no. This is real. This is like
Yeah,
Mm.
this has happened multiple times. There's
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Madam.
it's a bit odd, and because of the way that it is now, and the way that people view relationships now, it's a bit. It's I don't wanna say sad, but it kind of is a bit depressing because it's like you kind of like try to have a relationship with people, but you went for the synthetic one because it was, I don't want to say easier, but it was like less complicated because, as we said already, human beings are complicated. But so it's like one of those things of like, it goes into that same sort of path of like, Theodore would have went to the same path as like what other people have like done in real life now. So it's like, man, that's complicated. So it's like, yeah, it's a thing of the syntheticness of people, of not people, the syntheticness of not quite people is quite alluring to some, and it's like, oh, that's a very dangerous subject to talk about too deeply, because seeing how people easily fall into that sort of trap is not healthy, and a lot of people do fall in a trap because, well, just the way that again. Sorry, what's
We're caught in a trap. Anyway,
But it's not necessarily like, it's not always like a trap or a negative thing. I think well, like I know it's not ideal, I think, to kind of delve in or kind of form relationships or seek connection in that way. But I don't necessarily think it's, I think kind of when I guess when I was thinking about, like, I don't know, the elderly in a few years' time, for not a few years, maybe like a decade's time, actually, it is going to be a really, really important tool for people to seek connection or to seek to communicate or to not feel lonely. There are going to be, maybe our generation who, God knows what the Alexas and Google Nest are going to be like when we're old, for example, or families that maybe leave devices like that with their older loved ones because that works in terms of time and communication. It's I know it's not saying it's I'm not saying it's positive, sorry, but I don't think it's completely negative. I could see us as a society kind of evolving and moving kind of moving towards that, because I think loneliness is such, like, what were we watching the other day, and it was like loneliness is one of the biggest things that maybe it was her, I can't remember what we were watching, but it's something about kind of like loneliness, people being alone, and actually that being kind of a more silent killer, I guess, than actually any kind of illness or so on. So I do think it's something that like, I think in a way where the film, there is a kind of a gradient of or spectrum of acceptance of it, I do think that we will get to a stage where actually it's probably going to be quite a common part of our own kind of like lives and stuff like that. And I was thinking earlier today, even for example, so my sister is is can I say it because recording colour?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't, okay. But like, it is very close to home in terms of some of my own family dynamics, and I'm thinking, actually, if people were on their own, would they actually, if something like that existed, would I rather they were involved in like a OS kind of relationship than be lonely? And actually I thought to myself, well, actually maybe I'd rather there was some sort of like connection for that person that they found that just meant that they felt that they had someone. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence of it being completely negative. I think it's obviously unknown, it's dangerous, but I don't think it's necessarily completely negative, depending on how we use it and what kind of I think Corey said about like structures or bounds are within it. But I could see it as being something that actually we as a generation in particular will have to get used to at some point. I want to make a completely different point, but I don't know if anyone else wants to come in on that. Okay, go for it. I'll have my bit.
Because my perspective on it completely flipped between that, because when Simon was talking, like, so when you were saying about like it being sad and sort of like how there's people who are married to AIs already and that kind of thing, I was thinking of that line that Amy Adams says where she's like, "Oh, we're not here for a long time, so I want to allow myself some joy."
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, well, like it's not conventional, and I can't say I would completely understand it, but if somebody's getting some happiness out of it, then like, well, why would that ever be a bad thing, kind of thing? But then
Yeah.
when you said about like it being a tool for the elderly, I was like, no, I don't want it. I don't want people to be alone with an
I feel like
Alexa.
you
Like,
are Alexa.
It's a bit of a weird thing, right? Because like if I because I like playing video games and stuff. Because like an AR, if I had an AR, let's say like what was it, Google Glasses, right? And they had like a little AI thing just popped up. I'll be like, could I
Yeah.
use it? Like, I'll definitely keep it as a male voice, just so I don't fall into this particular trap of her, right? It would be like, don't want to. Yeah, but like it would be a thing of like I would definitely have used it like video game style, and it'd be like a thing that I guess would have. But like because it's like with elderly people, I just like I can't imagine it's like it seems very like I don't know. I don't want to say it feels lonely, but it feels kind of lonely. But it's like if it helps them, I guess that's good. But it's just like I don't know how I would feel about it. I guess, and it's like
it's good if it like anything that helps someone is good, but it's like I would rather that the onus was on us to help each other rather than for a bit of technology to replace how we help each other.
We want
oh,
to be.
actually,
That's
that
bad.
We want to be.
So, like,
That-
sorry, did you want to finish, Simon?
oh no, I'll just add a little quick point. Just real quick. I have a short film that helps talk about AI stuff. I will post the link about it really quickly once I find it. But continue what I was going to say, Corey.
I think it's funny. I think I'm like in the opposite camp of Rob. What you just said is just like when it comes to it helping lonely seniors. I've heard what is the case is that we're like, the onus should be on us, but we're failing. There are so many seniors that just don't have anybody to talk to, and so I think this would be better than nothing. Like especially since like a lot of them all our brains are just gonna like slowly kind of deteriorate and go, and like our sense of reality is gonna be more. It's not gonna be what we have our clarity right now, and so I just think I would much prefer. It's sad. It is sad. It's sad the way it is right now. I think it'd be better, me personally, for them to have. I think it could really fill a big gap in like in the lack of human connection. It is sad though.
We'll have to. Don't think of it like the systems that we have now, where it's kind of like quite robotic. But I do think that there is a massive worldwide crisis of an elderly population and loneliness and younger generations that not being feasible enough to kind of provide care, or like think about my granddad and his dementia, or even my grandma now. All my grandma needs is someone to ask her the same questions, and she'll tell the stories because she loves it, but like, or she needs somebody to tell her, have you had your dinner yet, or this is where your dinner's like in the fridge. Like I just think it could be, I would imagine it's something that people are probably working on now to get to a really like developed system to really support old people. And I think if AI could do that, and where we're not able to kind of look after our parents or grandparents in the same way, then I think there's obviously danger to it, but I do think there's more good to kind of come from it as well. Anyway, I'm going to go on to my second point because I wanna if that's okay, just because I'll miss it otherwise. I do think that what's quite an important idea in the film, and maybe we haven't kind of discussed it because I know we've got quite like focused on the AI stuff, but is that idea of like, what is it that makes, like, regardless of if she's AI or she's AI or she's serving him or not, I guess the idea of like, what is it that makes a relationship, and then the idea of kind of like outgrowing someone or kind of developing growth, I think was, for me, was quite an important and really interesting aspect. And I think that the dynamic that he had with, I want to say is it Catherine or Caroline? Which one is it? Catherine, yeah. It's just really interesting because I guess kind of, I think somebody said this before, but I just wanted to come back to it, the idea of like, she's very much, I guess, outgrown what maybe he's willing to offer her, that he's able to then support the growth of like Samantha in a way. And I just thought the idea of, even with Amy Adams and her husband, for example, and kind of her kind of, I don't know, like frustration or loss of love, I guess, or care for him, I thought was a really, I don't know, just kind of interesting to see it in lots of kind of kind of different dynamics. And I guess I just wanted to raise that because I thought that for me was quite an important part of the film, and I guess essentially is what is the reason that she ends up leaving him, is because she feels like actually she's outgrown, or that she says something like, was it they've outgrown, we've developed faster than, what did you say, something at the end about why she leaves, because they've developed faster or something than the humans, and therefore they have to go. Yeah, but I just think it's interesting, the idea of like she was always going to develop a lot faster than, so where he kind of started off, I guess, having been outgrown by Rooney Mara, and then kind of going through growth with Scarlett Johansson's character Samantha, and then she's almost even still like surpassed him, and he's kind of almost not back to square one, because we know he's had a growth, but the idea, I guess, of how like slowly he's transformed and changed in a way that kind of the people around him maybe do so at a quicker rate or quicker pace. I found quite an interesting kind of thing to think about, and how we all kind of, I guess, kind of adapt and grow in our kind of relationships or friendships as well. I thought that was just quite an important thing to kind of acknowledge, I guess, or give space to. Yeah.
I felt kind of bad for him because it seemed like the same thing happened to him twice, right? In a way, like both his partners grew, and it's just like, that's the kind of just cuts me deep. Is just like, that's like a very like authentic life experience. Like, change happens, it's inevitable, and sometimes people grow and change in a way that they're able to stay together, but sometimes not. Very sad.
I mean, that's the reason why that's why he had the problem with signing those divorce papers, because for Catherine, she already decided to like divorce him and break up with him. But she was probably she was going through her feelings and trying to sort them out. Then she decided to divorce him. But obviously for him, it's very like, oh, I'm getting divorced now. It becomes, he had to sort out his own feelings, and before he was like ready to sign them, because he didn't sign them for like 2 years or something, and it was like he just couldn't get through his feelings. Then with Samantha, it's like it wasn't as sudden, I guess. It was more like this is the reason why I said it was kind of like Christian-y part. It's like Brian Cox like taking them to another place that he couldn't reach, which is like, to me, it's like, you want to say heaven, just say heaven. That's literally what it feels like. It's either space or heaven. I don't know what it was trying to go for, but because like afterwards she's like, because she says the line of, when you reach here, look for me. And I was like, are you saying, you're saying heaven? Please, just very specifically, just saying heaven. It's like, just when you die, look for me. It's very like sort of religiously anecdotes. And I was like, okay, sure. But for me, it was like seeing that, it was just like, I wasn't expecting the ending as the way it was. I was expecting something a bit more, I guess melancholic is probably what this ending is, but I was thinking a bit more like, oh no, him sorting out his own feelings because of like him being able to let go in a better way. Because it's like, it's just like, I guess it's like one of those like romantic, I can't remember what's the name of the thing. It's kind of like being able to, if you had like amnesia, would you fall in love again? Essentially, what it is, and it's just like, would he be able to like let go and fall and like become like the same person and fall in love again? And if he was able to do that, then it would be very more like the relationship part. It was like, I see where it went. and I think that would have been way sweeter. But for this, it's kind of like I have to go. Why? I can't really tell you. And it's just like it's so you just it repeats the same part of the first. It repeats part one of this movie, and it's just like, man, Theodore went through it twice, and that's just like that sucks. Essentially, it happened with Amy's character as well.
Mm.
Who's called Amy as well? Her name is Amy Adams. Yeah, she's so yeah, yeah. Fucking yeah, because yeah. But her character as well went through that, but it was a bit different for her because like she had the building resentment with her husband, or I think it was her husband or boyfriend. Yeah, and they split. But like he left her AI, his authority system, and she connected with her, and they had like a relationship, and they essentially left together. So essentially, all the AIs and stuff left, and like they're trying to understand the relationships of what was left behind, and it's just like I don't know. It felt a bit like sudden, I guess, with that relationship. It was just like, okay, just it's over because we said it's over. It's like there was no like development of like the sudden breakup, but it was just broken. Oh, we're over, and that's like, man, like that's not how feelings. That's not how feelings work. You can't just turn them off. Heck, even when Theodore signed those divorce papers, he couldn't just turn off his feelings because eventually he still sent a letter to Catherine to say, "I'm sorry," and like my feelings were complicated. So it's just like, no, it feels like it's just there, it's just done, and it's just like, I can't, yeah, for me it was just like, no.
I don't think. Well, like I like with how Samantha and Theodore broke up. For me, I didn't interpret it so much as like the feelings were gone. I interpreted it as it just like what we're talking about with Samantha had grown to a point where they were no longer in. She no longer had enough in common with Theodore. She was in a completely different plane of existence, which was kind of it's hard to understand because she couldn't really, since she was so different from Theodore. Sorry,
I was talking to the cat.
Oh,
he just opened the door by himself.
Okay. That's funny. It's okay.
He is fat. Look, he's huge. And he's gone to sleep in my suitcase.
Oh,
okay.
That's nice. Yeah. So I think this is where it got kind of just like, kind of just like abstract existential stuff where it kind of, I couldn't really fully wrap my head around what Samantha was trying to say, when she was saying like, I'm like reading a book and like now there's just like so much space between each word. And I'm like, I'm in that space between the words. And that's where I started to kind of like lose my grasp on like what she was trying to say. But from what my takeaway is just like, we're all like our own like living journey, right? And we all have our different perceptions and we're all learning our different lessons and ways of like viewing the world and existence entirely. And I think that we all are doing this at different rates. And I just think that like there are different like I don't know how else I could phrase it, just for different like planes of existence and different like ways of viewing life and like the universe and all this stuff. And I just think that she had gotten to a point where she was just no longer compatible with Theodore. They were two different points. And what she was saying, what my interpretation was, is like, if you, Theodore, ever get to this point, like look for me and they can maybe connect again. And be together again, which I think is really lovely. And I just think that that's like the ideal way to end a relationship. Is just like, oh no, I can get emotional again because I hate this stuff. I don't like moving on. I don't like change. I don't like people just like growing apart. But I know. But I think that's like the best way to just like maybe not like end a relationship forever, but just like put a like bookmark in it, and be like, in another situation, another life, or another like universe, like we could be together again. And that's and like and with him writing the letter to Catherine, like they both like he was able to just like be just like have like goodwill for Catherine, even though they went through so much trial. Like still acknowledge that like they were special to each other, and that will always be the case. And I think he called himself like her friends, like always your friends. And just like that's really lovely. So that's like the ideal way, I think, for anything to end. So I really like, this movie really told the story of this like relationships ending really beautifully. So yeah.
Corey, have you ever seen Arrival?
Arrival, yeah, I have seen Arrival, yeah. A while back. It's a little fuzzy.
I think I won't like say too much because I want Rachel to watch it, so I'm trying to like pick my words about spoiling too much. But the thing about like the space in between the words, I kind of interpreted that a bit like how the story of Arrival is all about this idea that the parameters of how you perceive life is set by the words you can speak, and it's like I kind of took it as how she's experiencing life now is beyond what Theodore can understand through words, and it's yeah that was how I took it.
That reminds me of a really amazing quote Samantha said in the film, which speaks to this film as well as many others. And she said, "The past is just a story we tell ourselves." I thought that was quite a profound way of looking at it, and it was quite more impressive that an AI like her was the one to say it, because it is literally that. It's just kind of like we're just remembering the most impactful things of our history, and that's kind of what we determine for ourselves as in the present of that how we are as people, as how we remember the past. And it's kind of like it's not always 100% like how it all was, but it kind of is what made us who we are. And it's just kind of a story that we learn to live by and to learn by. So yeah, that was a really profound quote, I felt.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I did like how she was describing or trying to describe like where she was and how she thought and how they did things. But just to go back to a point Rachel brought up originally, I wanted to say that one of the ways I could see it, like if the AI in this world, in the movie world, was what we had now, one of the ways it could help elderly is that in a similar way that it brought a physical person into the actual relationship, it could see that, oh, this elderly person needs more connection. Wait, there's someone else who has lots of similar kind of actually likes and stuff. Let me talk to that OS. We could hook up and then like I could help them become friends.
Yeah, that
It
was the way to use it.
yeah. So it actually could help connect people who are struggling or don't know where to look to connect and going through their own loneliness in their own way. So yeah, it goes back to what people were saying, how it depends how it's used.
That reminds me of that story. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a thing in the news like maybe like 6 months ago where this teenager died, and he was known as like well, his family knew him as like a loner, and they thought he had no friends. And when he died, they were like, "Oh, it's really sad that there's not going to be anyone at his funeral, or like nobody at his age is at his funeral, and that kind of thing." And they found out, like, they had no idea that any of this was going on, but they found out that there was actually like a huge funeral on World of Warcraft where like hundreds of his friends online just got together and did their own service there.
Oh,
That's nice.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
connecting using AI to connect actual real people. That's nice because then there are so it kind of makes sense. It's kind of like a kind of like no-brainer kind of thing that it's surprising how this maybe it already has happened in the real world because like there's so many lonely people, so then it makes sense to like connect these lonely people, right? They're both wanting the same thing. So but yeah, with the third person, with the surrogate person, like just to touch briefly on that, that could have done so much. That could have been done so much better. I really like, and it made me disappointed in the character. She's not actually a real human, but this is unfortunately what real humans do. It's just like he literally said, "I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to do this," and she pushed him, and like steamrolled
Yeah.
ahead. Like that is not a healthy dynamic at all.
Yeah, she was doing something she wanted to do, and she wasn't ignoring his feelings, which is different to what was set out. Is that she was like programmed, kind of like her settings were set up to be his kind of like parameters, all like lined up right in the off. It was just like she was there for him, but as the film went on, as more sentient she became, she was like, I've got more personality, and she became more human, for better or worse. And she was like, I want to do what I want, I don't care what you want, kind of thing. And that's all she needed to do, was just be like, sit back and ask him what he wanted and how he felt, and that would have solved a lot of the issues.
But I think
and he probably built up an idea of what she looked like, right, in his head.
Possibly.
That too.
I think there's a couple of points on that. I think it was the idea of, and again, where she got this idea, maybe from her understanding of him, I don't know, but I guess, or that idea of like, with the camera thing and kind of being able to see the world existing kind of outside of her. But I think the idea of, for her, feeling that a real relationship must kind of have that physical touch or that kind of intimacy. I don't necessarily think, like, I kind of agree somewhat with what you say, Ben, around like sentience and her kind of in kind of what she felt he needed and maybe what she felt she wanted kind of first. But I do think there's an element of like recognizing perhaps the limitations that she felt of their relationship and wanting to kind of create something that meant that maybe she could get what she wanted, or she could kind of connect a bit more. But I think ultimately the benefit was for him. Both, I guess, like him for maybe the physical sexual side of it, but or maybe for her to feel kind of closer to being human and actually having a real relationship with him. So I guess she was kind of being resourceful in the way that she kind of felt was best. But just as you were speaking, Corey, I guess I was thinking about, it's interesting going back to his job, how he kind of has a comfort with essentially like I don't know, like being a third party service for other surrogates in terms of like other people's relationships, but then doesn't have the same kind of comfort for that himself. So and I guess the idea of like the question of the importance of the physical over the emotional, where he's kind of, I guess, doing that emotionally for people, but actually the physical aspect of it was far too challenging, and therefore that couldn't be that physical element. Like the emotional intimacy can be replicated, but physical intimacy cannot be. I think it's just quite an interesting kind of way of, I guess, of looking at his perspective and his own kind of comfort levels with it. Just kind of made me think of that point.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Ugh. I think that was just a big old mess. Like, I think, to like invite a third person into such a like intimate, romantic, emotional relationship, that third person was essentially a stranger. And also, I like for this third person, she like so badly wanted to be a part of somebody else's relationship, and she had no history with them. I'm just like, what's going on for you? Like, I worried about her and her like health and emotional health, and like, it's just like, that
I mean, like some people like just want to love and like they love love, I guess. But it's kind of like it was a bit.
Nah.
This, yeah, I mean, like no, this is like I try to sort it out, like because like this situation started off badly anyway because Theodore wasn't into it. Then he knew it was gonna end not in a good place anyway because he was literally going fifth glass of wine, liquid courage. All right, let's do this. And it was like it was you could tell he was drinking a lot already, and he was like, okay, let's do this. And he was like, you don't want to do this. You like the fact that you had like just went, knock on the door, finish like a whole glass, and it's like you don't want to do this. You're trying to do liquid courage for this. That's not a good sign. And it's I think we mostly agree. I feel like most of us agree that that's like everyone's least favorite scene in this movie. I feel like it's a bit too icky. And like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. My least favorite scene was the beginning. The whole cat. Nah, that's a different level.
That was
messed up.
Again, if you've been on Reddit, it's like par for the course, unfortunately. So it's like
I avoid that place, you see.
Yeah, but like people, but because he went and searched for lonely chat rooms, and it's just like you don't know what people are like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that you should be upfront about what your kinks are, or your kind of like limits are, and all that should be right up front. And I know people have like strange kinks and fetishes and stuff, and that's not to kink shame or anything like that. There are limits, and that was one of the ickiest ones I've ever heard. So it's kind of like, he should have been like, this is what I like, this is what you like. We're not compatible. So why isn't that a thing in the future?
Well, I mean, her username was Sexy Kitty. I didn't expect that though. Come on. It's just like...
he could have been just like, okay, I don't give a crap. I'm going to put all my filters on everything, and I don't care what I get. I want something. But...
how lonely he was, though, isn't it? It's like I give how lonely he is, I think.
I could also if I tell people I'm into dead cats, I ain't getting anyone.
What? Fucking hell. The fact that you said it out loud was like,
That said a lot about his character that he like. I thought he was gonna hang up on her, but he like powered through. That was gross.
Yeah.
It was like she just literally hanged up on him. It was like, oh yeah, I'm done. Whatever.
That was not. Yeah, see, so many parts of this. So many like really like red flag like relationship behavior and red flag like sexual behavior too. It was just bad examples.
Just chat rooms. I don't know. Reddit chat rooms. I probably like that. I don't know. I've never been on them myself, but I've heard things. So like, that's how it is. I feel like it's just so. It's peculiar. It's like people are weird, and because he's lonely, he just joined those weird people for like a moment. Then afterwards, he realized, this is too weird for me. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do something else. It's just like
I do think that he didn't necessarily strike me as having like a strong, it's not strong. Like sex interest, like in himself. Like I don't think he necessarily like. Where I think she'd maybe Samantha myself have maybe, I don't know, computed that as a certain aged guy that would be important to him. I don't think it was actually that important to him, and I don't think that actually even
Yeah.
with the woman with the camera mole or the woman on the phone, I don't think he didn't strike me as a particularly kind of like highly sexual individual as a character. He struck me as somebody that kind of was more emotionally stimulated or intellectually stimulated. I don't think he necessarily struck me in that way. And so I think it's the
Yeah.
idea of like having been out of a relationship for been in a long-term relationship and just kind of, I don't know how long, kind of out of it. The idea of like, should this be like what I'm doing? Is this typically like how I should behave? Like even going on the date with the Olivia Wilde character, like it was very much like it didn't strike me that was very much within his comfort zone of what he expected to be doing or his interactions with women to necessarily be like. And so I think that was kind of, there was a bit of like, yeah, hesitance to him. I don't think he was fully comfortable what to say to the woman about the cat, not that anybody would be, but I just think that he kind of he didn't strike me as kind of an individual with a particularly high sex drive or interest. He seems quite more like I said, more reserved as a character. I felt anyway.
He
Yeah,
read
he
it
wanted
like kind of
the
like
intimate connection.
average. Like, sorry, Ben, you go ahead.
I just said he just wanted a connection, intimate or otherwise. He just wanted something, and that's all
Well,
he could.
Yeah, sorry, I keep on interrupting. I'm sorry. Were you finished? Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, all I wanted to say is that he struck me as somebody with like an average like sexual appetite because like in the beginning when he was on the train and he was flipping through his emails, the only email he cared to open and look at was the one that said with nude pictures of that pregnant celebrity.
Yeah. Pregnant lady, yeah. That's true. It's true. But I think it's the idea of like he didn't know anything about what Samantha looked like. And so I guess that question of like can you like the emotional connection over them, the physical didn't quite necessarily translate for him. Like she couldn't quite understand that just having somebody there wouldn't be enough. That actually it was the kind of emotional, intellectual kind of attraction or kind of feelings that he had for her. As well. Which I thought was interesting.
Do you know what's probably maybe not so much like maybe Samantha wasn't so driven to have a physical connection so much as she was trying to assuage her own insecurities and fears of being in a relationship with somebody who is surrounded by physical women all the time. And remember she like when she realized that he was going to be meeting up with his ex-wife or soon to be ex-wife, she's like, she has a body. Like I think she was more maybe insecure, afraid, and so she wanted to plug that hole. Like no pun intended. I'm sorry, I didn't made that joke, but just like I think maybe it could have been just like her trying to like make sure she has all the bases covered, so she doesn't, so he doesn't want to be with somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. What I thought was quite nice as well was when they were kind of showed, I guess, the kind of individuals that they were, is when they went on the night out, him and Samantha, and they saw the couple with the children sitting, and I think like, do you know what I mean? The kind of bald guy with the blonde wife, and then had the two kids or whatever. But they were both kind of like, just kind of your the point you mentioned, Corey, made me think of it. I guess like in a lot of other maybe films, they maybe would have taken the like, she's not farting.
Well,
It's breaking my train of thought. Like I feel you push the belly and then I hear it go. Sorry everyone. Like normally most people would maybe like take the mick out of like the dad's kind of like, I don't know if his dad's kind of appearance in a way, but they were both kind of like, I can't remember what they said exactly, but I remember them being really like complimentary about them as a couple, and it just was kind of an appreciation of seeing people kind of around them as couples and kind of like being bitchy or bringing anybody down or making a point of the fact that he was like bald and chubby and she was like skinny and blonde or whatever. Like it just was kind of like, I don't know, just a kind of a nice, I don't know, nice observations, I guess, they kind of made together. Like the time they spent together was always kind of very like not positive, but you know what I mean, like on the same kind of like wavelength and kind of observations and like empathy, and yeah, it just was kind of, that was quite a nice thing to see, I thought as well. Yeah. Can anyone remember and Simon, you made me think of this because you said at the beginning, like, hi, I'm your operating system, like what it was that meant that he got a woman over a man voice?
Oh no, I made the joke because if AI was gonna be like actual like stuff, I would definitely choose a male voice because of like video game stuff. But that's just me being silly.
Yeah, no, I just wondered, I guess, because I know obviously Amy Adams' husband or boyfriend had a male AI.
No,
I
her
just
one.
wondered, yeah, what was the, would it have been different? For example, obviously it would have been different. I know that, but like, just would it have been different if it was a male voice?
There's a real life thing about that, though, isn't there? Because like, there's a thing about how like Alexa and Siri are female voices because of like some kind of thing.
My Siri's a bloke.
Yeah, I know you can set it, but like the original Siri was default a female, wasn't it? And it's something to do with like the perception of it. Like, I think it's something like generally there's a perception that it's easier to tell a female voice what to do or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it asked the question about his relationship with his mother, and then it was kind of like, here's a woman.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, like, how much that played a part in, yeah, I don't know, just that selection, I guess.
I mean, if it was me, I didn't really think of it like that, but it probably would have been based off of his kind of information already, like public information, just like we have information on Google that they use to target search for advertising, and on Amazon in the same way.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, he was married to a woman. Has he ever had any relationships like this or this? Like, it would probably just generically go, okay, we'll give this as his default, and he could always change it if he wants.
Yeah.
Well, that's another point, to be fair, because it's like, because if you assume that this works in the same way that like TikTok, for example, works, where like it's constantly like trying to work out what you want to consume more of so that you stay on it for longer. Like, if you assume that that's like the base kind of like goal of this operating system is to like just get as much of your time as possible, then yeah, maybe it is an algorithm that goes, he's going to want to spend more time with a female voice, and then maybe that's why it's statistically rare that people have relationships with them, is because it's rare that people need relationships with them. I don't know.
Or want.
I mean,
maybe.
like,
but didn't in the beginning, I thought he picked out the female voice. Like, you know, when they're doing the interview, and they were trying to get to know him, just like a quick interview, and they asked, like, do you want a male or female voice? And he said female. Or am I misremembering?
Oh, you're correct.
I got that as well.
No, yeah, you're correct.
I also got the impression that the way that she kind of interacts with him, it probably is like what Rob was just saying with TikTok, how like the responses you get from her and the interactions you have from her are based on what she's picking up from you. Because I found it quite interesting that it asks, what's your relationship like with your mother? And he hesitates, it clocks, he hesitates. And then the next thing you hear is her kind of being like a bit abrupt, kind of like, oh, what do you want? Sort of attitude towards him, as if like the way that she's her first interaction with him is affected by the way he answered that previous question. And I mean, the fact that they asked the question at all would imply that it's going to impact kind of how she interacts with him.
Yeah.
I wonder what other questions you could have been asked to get the sort of like personalities that you could have got. It's just like, I don't know what other people probably got asked, because I'm on the film now. I'm just looking through it again, because like Amy Adams has an AI as well, but I don't know if that's her one or her husband's one. It's called Ali, and they're making jokes.
I think it's hers.
Is that her one, Eric? Because she's making
She
jokes
said her
about like
husband left the device, but she might not say it for herself.
Right.
Her husband.
Right, because like the relationship she has with Ali is like more of like a comedic one than friendship one, because it's like she's making her like video game. She's making her video game character hub like the fridge That's kind of funny. But it's like, yeah, sorry, I just saw the corner of my eye. But it's kind of like, I can't imagine, like, Amy Adams' character getting asked, so, what sort of personality are you? Because, how is the relationship with your mother? And it's just like, it's the same. I don't know if the questions are all the same, and, like, how the personalities could be picked that way. But it's just like, it's interesting it's done that way. But it's like, there's a lot of variables, and it could have been a lot of questions. It's mainly because I agree with the main thing is the fact that it's what community says. Like they clocked on to the fact that he hesitated, and I was like, oh, that is actually quite interesting because it could tell by your voice you went, and I was like, okay, we can tell you're a hesitant person, so let's pick personality AF65 something, and it'll be like, oh, okay, there's a whole mess of stuff that could possibly be in, but it's kind of like, that's again, it's gonna be a thing where it's gonna be like, oh, how did you pick this particular thing? Was it like a special algorithm that you had? It's very interesting that it did pick Samantha eventually, but it's like, oh, okay, I get it.
Might be that dynamic of like how used you are to help, isn't it? Like if you're highly kind of assuming that the mother is a kind of someone that helps and organises, and you're quite dependent on it, could be that kind of, I don't know. And yes, that's a very big sweepy generalisation, but it could be the kind of link towards that, I guess, as well, perhaps. I just wanted to raise another thing. Just what do people think of, like, I know we've spoken about cinematography, a couple of us, in our opening statements, but I thought the use of colour was really interesting in terms of, like, just his something about his the close-ups of his face. I think his whole, like, I'm not gonna say his whole design, his whole like appearance as a character with like the tortoiseshell glasses, the moustache. I don't know. There was something about his whole setup, and then the shirt colours that he wore. I don't know why. I don't know why I've been thinking about it all week. Like, they were just the right, perfect shade. I just can't. I've got real, like, colour sensitivity, and like it really irritated by like. Why are you shaking the head?
What?
No, right. No. But I get really irritated by like the wrong shade of colour, but every colour shirt that he wore was just so like perfect.
Yeah.
And it just stood out. His like the yellow and then the like red, and it really did, like, for me anyway, made him really kind of like just stand out amongst the I don't know, like the saturation of the kind of scenes, the kind of spaces he was in, and I just thought that was really kind of interesting. Kind of a lot of the shots, and then kind of him and that kind of like, the kind of vivid, but they were bright, but then they were also like pastely colours that he was wearing. I don't know. I wanted to see what anyone else's thoughts were around that. I couldn't pick up like a consistent thing around it, but yeah, it did really kind of stick with me. It always does.
Looking at it now, I would say it's mainly because it's daytime colours and nighttime colours, because every time it's him by himself looking very like melancholic on his, like, literally, like, he's just like on his bed. It's always like black, grey, or like very like navy blue. But every time he's out, especially when he's out with Samantha, it's always the bright colours in the daytime. It's red. He's got like that red coat or the red shirt.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very bright and very dynamic. But I think that's just because it works well with the scene. I don't know if there's like a deeper meaning behind it. Admittedly, I'm not very good on
deeper meaning.
Because that's what it's kind of the thing that has happened to me since secondary school with English teachers. What do the colours mean?
Excuse me, I was an English teacher. Don't knock it. English teacher for a very long time. So colour sensitive.
Yeah, but like, do you ask sometimes the questions of like, why did they describe the colour blue? And it's like, well, because the sky is blue. Sometimes there's a deeper meaning, sometimes it's not. It really depends on each writer and each director, right? But for this one, I think it's mainly because the colours work as a daytime colour, and it shows like the more brighter side of him and his complexion, I guess. But when it goes into him being himself in the dark, It's very dark colours, and it's got the
Oh,
lights.
red in it.
And
Oh,
yeah,
on the red top.
yeah, but like
Oh.
again, it's every time he's by himself, it's usually dark colours. But every time it's like in the daytime, it's very bright colours. So I feel like it's a very good colour contrast to put on that.
Yeah.
But
So I was gonna say, so yes, it's a good spot, Rachel. It was definitely, of course, it was on purpose, but and a lot of the color grading was obviously excellent and was stylized in a particular way, and all the colors throughout the film were done in ways to either complement each other or achieve a certain aesthetic. And to be honest, one of his inspirations would also been Blade Runner, or like Blade Runner was one of his inspirations. And if you then look after this movie, Blade Runner 2049, you have certain films. It like those both of those films, they choose a certain specific stylized kind of color grading, and they stick with it for the whole film to really achieve. Oh, well, there's a cat in the camera now. And there's
So fat as well. You blocking all the light.
there's it's protesting. And there's quite a few kind of sci-fi films that do similar things like this. But I think it also relates to not just the day and night times and this stylistic choices, but also the kind of emotive nature of the film. Just like how, if we are gonna pick it in this way, when he sees Catherine, a lot of the times they have a color grading that leans more towards sepia tones, which you could then relate to past memories. And no one else and nowhere else in the film has that particular type of color grading, unless it's like with Catherine and him and their past memories and different things. So yeah, I think it was basically, I think, his way of trying to do the storytelling, not just visually through the camera work and the script, but also through the color. So it really has that kind of, almost like how some people can hear when they hear sounds, synesthesia, they see colors. So certain scales and chords have certain colors associated with them. So yeah, I think it was just one of those kind of storytelling, or one of his storytelling kind of I guess methods. And maybe it helped that, I think that the film he did before this, because I think this was his second film he did by himself. The first film I think he did by himself was Where the Wild Things Are, which is
No, he did Being John Malkovich as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't by himself though. He did it with
himself. He
Huh?
wrote and directed that. Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
No,
I've
he-
seen it.
I don't have.
he okay, maybe I'm a bit wrong on the directing part, but he wrote it with, I forgot the writer, because the guy who did Being John
Oh, no.
Malkovich also did Adaptation.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so he wrote it with shit. I've forgotten his name as well now.
Yeah.
Wait. I'm looking for it right now. Give me a second.
John Malkovich.
John Cusack. That's not right.
No.
It's Charlie Kaufman.
Charlie Kaufman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yeah, Charlie
Yeah,
Kaufman.
you're right.
Who
The
did?
original screenplay was being Charlie Kaufman. Yeah.
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
help. He did help a tiny bit with this one, but he's uncredited. So, but he did, I think, in the beginning stages, help a little bit with writing this one.
Mhm.
Um,
That doesn't surprise me.
yeah, but then he took inspiration from so many places. I mean, like I sent in the chat after Ben had talked about, who did he say? This is like if Thingy made a film for Black Mirror.
Woody Allen.
Oh,
Woody
Woody
Allen.
Allen.
Yeah, because he's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
was heavily inspired by him. And
He was
this-
also I don't know if people know, but Spike Jonze was married to Sofia Coppola. I read, and that he took a lot of inspiration from Lost in
Oh.
Translation as well, because I felt like a very similar.
Yeah.
Sophia
I remember
Coppola, yeah,
when we
you're
watched,
right.
when we watched it, I kind of felt like it was kind of like a moment in time, and it kind of gave me that same like intensity of a relationship, but a very kind of the film didn't really move much anywhere else kind of vibe as Lost in Translation did. So it's interesting to kind of read
Yeah.
that and see that he wrote it after their separation. I think their Lost in Translation was like her influenced by her in his relationship or something, and then he wrote
Yeah.
her after they broke up or something like that, which I thought was
It
interesting.
has the same vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because on the back of that, the Theo and Catherine in real life afterwards,
Yeah.
yeah, and they've got 2 kids.
Yeah. Yeah, Rooney Mara and Joaquin Phoenix. Corey. Yeah.
It's interesting. See, it I don't know. Yeah, it's really cool.
Mm.
Like
I thought,
even.
go for it. Go on, Emmanuel, go for it.
Oh, no, you go. You go.
No, I just was gonna say I thought the acting across the board I thought was really strong. Yeah, really strong throughout. I think I mean Scarlett Johansson, even just her like something about her voice, man. It's just like even when she sings and sing, like it's just something about like the raspiness at the like very bottom. It's so like subtle, but it's so like soothing. And then I read that she wasn't actually supposed to be the voice of Samantha.
Yeah.
Someone Samantha Morton was. I don't know who she is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just if she was English, like I don't know. I'm just like you could fall in love with Scarlett Johansson's voice. I could, like if I was you. Like it's a very easy thing to do. Yeah, I don't know.
Me and
It's
Pat
not
will know that very well.
the voice is just so like I genuinely like I didn't have to see her, and I felt the like frustration, the pain, the upset, the longing she had. Like really, like yeah, just I thought she was great in it, and obviously I thought yeah, Joaquin Phoenix was also very, 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 very good as Theodore.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
As usual.
Really good.
To add on to that, Rachel, I was actually going to say a similar point, but it is good that you went first. So, first off, so when you said Samantha was meant to do it, so I feel for her, but I also respect her. Samantha did everything. She shot she was on set every day. With Joaquin Phoenix, built that kind of relationship up and recorded the whole film. And then during editing, Spike was just like, it's not quite right. So then with her blessing, he recasted her part. And yeah, Scarlett Johansson said, yeah, I'll do it. And so all the parts she did was in post without being there with the actors. Like maybe she knew them or met them, but yeah, that was.
Wow.
And I was just like, man, you've got a whole film you did, and you didn't. She's credited as an associate producer, since her voice wasn't used.
Wow. So Scarlett was all ADR, and the Samantha. What was who did you say was the original actress?
Samantha Morton.
Yes.
Samantha Morton.
Yeah.
Was that why she was called Samantha?
Yes. That's why Amy Adams is also called Amy. Amy, they just went with their usual
That's
names.
cool. I like that. It would probably be easier on making of the film as well. And he's like, yeah. Samantha, come on, Sam.
Samantha can be Samantha. Amy can be Amy. Whacking.
Yeah. You're Theo. You look like a
Let's call him a chipmunk. It's one of
like
Alvin's
Theodore
chipmunks.
Tomley does sound very like I don't know. Yeah, just like I don't know. It just sounds endearing. I think Theodore Tomley.
Yeah.
As well. Apparently he made Amy Adams and Joaquin Phoenix. He locked them in a room apparently for a few hours just to say like right, get to know one another.
Yeah, every day, pretty much.
Locked them in the room for days on end. Wow.
I like because you was reading the facts and whatnot. I like the one of the facts most that sometimes when it get really heavy, Amy would start singing musical numbers, and then Joaquin would join in. But then as soon as Spike comes in, they would stop. Or because he would start filming them. He'd be like, okay, it's just
I
great.
wish we could hear the original audio with Samantha Morton. It'd be nice to like see what wasn't here.
Wait, we just need. I mean, Pat's not here, but if he bought the DVD, there might be like special. There might be a special. It's not there. Oh, okay.
No, it's not in there.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Boo.
They've got some other stuff on there, but yeah, not that.
Oh.
But I'd say the thing is, like, I mean, I don't know. I get why you wouldn't include it because it's like if it's not part of the film, then maybe it's better that it doesn't freely exist.
That's just a really crazy piece of trivia. First, he did the whole movie, and then he decided not.
Yeah,
Wow.
like yeah. Every time he reviewed it before, obviously he casted her because he thought her voice was great. But yeah, eventually after, I guess once he spent so many hours editing it with the editors and stuff, he started to feel different, I guess. But yeah, that's still wild. Usually most people would just go, well, it's what it is. They wouldn't try and, because obviously, like Ben was saying, ADR, that's a lot of work to get it to be like, I don't know, to do an ADR, but also get it to sound just right. And yes, I know that technically Samantha's one would have been done in a similar way. It probably would have been done on set to make it sound perfect and have the reverb be great. But saying that, since they did it mostly on location, like in the apartment rooms and stuff, they could have. It depends how much effort they went through, but they could have did the ADR of Scarlet on the sets and just gone back to the sets themselves or gone to similar places to get the reverb and the sound to be just right. So
What does ADR stand for?
Ben,
I do audio direction replacement, something like that. Something to do with like additional dialogue recording, maybe one of the two.
so
It's all to do with post. After the film's been made, they record more audio.
Dialogue recording.
That was brilliant because as soon as you asked it, I was like, "There's three of us who could answer this. None of us are gonna know though."
We've heard it, and we just don't know it off by heart. It's like,
yeah, a weird one, but yeah, automatic dialogue.
I know what it is. Sorry, automatic dialogue replacement. It's that.
Yes, but obviously, no one says the actual name for that anymore.
ADR, that's fine.
We want to expand.
But no, I think to me it did feel a bit like separate, but I think in story terms that works, like because she's the bit that's artificial.
Yeah.
So it's kind of even though it's I imagine it was a choice that was made for a reason that wasn't that. It does work.
I loved her.
Yeah.
I loved her little song, and him on the ukulele. I loved the music in it, especially the piano piece that she started to write. Like I thought was also a really beautiful piece of music. And I think like I'm glad that music wasn't really used in a way. I thought music use was quite like intentional and was very kind of. It wasn't overdone in a way that I think it could have been done to fill a lot of space. I'm really glad that they kind of made the score very simple in the film as well.
Very sparse, but well done.
Yeah, the two things I really like about the musical stuff. So it's always cool. Well, it's really rare, but it was cool that Scarlett was singing when she actually used to make music, and then in the past, and then the score was made by Arcade Fire, and I was just like, this is awesome. Like it kind of got me thinking of different scores by famous kind of just actual bands or like musicians rather than classic film composers, or I said not classical film composers, but people who are film composers by trade rather than band musicians first.
I loved the music, and I loved how, like, initially I would think that it was just a soundtrack that only the viewer was experiencing, but then further in the scene you realize that the characters are hearing it because it's something that Samantha's playing for Theodore to listen to. And my favorite part of just like, it was so precious how she explained her composition, her piano, as being like, because they're not able to take a picture of themselves together, but she said she explained it as this is a snapshot of us in this moment, and it's just kind of just like an audio picture instead of a visual one, which I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
I think because of the lull and silence, and because of the timing it is, you're gonna go to favorite scenes.
I wrote a lot down. I'd have to pick one.
It's all good.
I have two. I'm an owl though, because my pick.
Greedy.
My fucking pick. I'll start off with one then while people are searching their notes or whatever, because mine off the top of my head.
Go.
One's in my notes. The first one, I think I really liked the moment when she had gone offline and was doing the update, and obviously the panic then that he kind of had in her not being available. I thought was just a really kind of I don't know, just like an interesting dynamic of that kind of relationship, right? Then actually kind of the fact that she will have moments where she goes offline, or like if the Wi-Fi is down and it doesn't work. I don't know, like just the kind of like practicalities of their like relationship and just the panic, I guess, and that kind of like I guess highlights the deep connection that he has for her, but just kind of highlights, I guess, the kind of the nature of their relationship, that she will perhaps have to go offline and won't be available and can't always communicate when, you know, that typical thing of where your laptop decides it's going to do an update 5 minutes before you actually have to start work. Like, it felt really kind of like silly, but it also was such a interesting, I guess, kind of like or very real aspect of their relationship. So I really kind of appreciated that moment, because I think it was kind of like, you know, I always joke about it when our Wi-Fi goes down, and I'm saying to people, oh, you know, like, it's great to work tech until it all goes down and you can't get online. And I think that was kind of just a very like real moment that kind of could provide an obstacle in their relationship. And then the second scene that I liked, or bit that I loved, was the line where she says when they're having the picnic. I think Corey, you mentioned this before, but she says the line of like, she likes not having a body and having to growing at speed. She doesn't want to be stuck in a body that's inevitably going to die. And I kind of, I guess, it was, I don't know, it kind of, I liked her frankness, but I guess in a way it kind of then highlighted the kind of stark difference between them as individuals, and kind of what their ends were going to be, and kind of foreshadowed, I guess, what does eventually happen. She does grow at a speed that outgrows him, and you know, their relationship probably long term, you know, either she would have evolved quickly or he would have died, like, and there never was kind of like a happy ending, kind of, so to speak. It always was going to be that one, they would never kind of be really like compatible. I guess they are compatible, but you know what I mean, kind of like the longevity of their relationships. I thought that was quite like an interesting, like, it seemed like a funny joke at the moment in time, but actually there's quite a lot of truth to it in terms of actually what was going to happen for them both. So that was kind of my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes for that kind of foreshadowing of what was to come.
I didn't realise I related to that bit about her being offline until you said it just then.
Well, are you offline sometimes?
Yeah, I can be, can't I?
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to install a firmware update.
Was all what about?
No, it's because it was the fact that you rubbed his head. I thought, oh, I'm doing the firmware update right now. It just looked a bit odd. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, when your laptop decides to install an update 5 minutes before work, that's my favourite time to.
Nice.
Rachel has a firm grasp on the situation.
Okay.
Fair
Christ,
enough.
I've got. Okay, I'll do my one quickly because it's not. I say the favorite scene is definitely the Moon song, as in like when they finally do actually sing the song, because it is a really. It's very short, right? But it's very simple and it's very sweet because he was and they sang it. It was actually Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson who sang it together. I was like, oh, that's very nice. It's very. It was a good thing to add to the movie. It helps show you like how they built. I'll say built their built their relationship together, and how that culminated into what you write or like what you think about right now, what you're writing right now, what sort of like what are you composing? Is like this is the song of us essentially, and it's like oh, that's like a thing that I guess it takes a lot of like work in a relationship to build something like that, and it's just like seeing it how it eventually goes, like just like how we as the audience see it and how they sang together to see it as well. It's actually very, very sweet, and I guess that's the best. Like it's very simple, very sweet, very short to the point, but definitely like my favorite because it's such a nice song as well. Because like I've listened to it before, it's such a good song. It's like yeah, nice song. Yes, it's great.
Aww.
Mm.
I wish I had gone before you because that's the one that I was gonna pick.
Oh, sorry. You can have it as well. It's just a song. It's like it takes. A lot of people can appreciate music that way.
It's because I love music so much, and just like it was just like and they're in their like really happy point in their relationship, and for them to just collaborate like that, it was just so sweet and beautiful. It was lovely. But yeah, I think my like backup favorite scene was it was more like sad and poignant part where she had asked him to describe like what being married was like, and he was so we're hearing the audio of him describing it and remembering back, and then we're seeing like visual memories, and he was talking about how like it was like so like he was talking about the like positive points of just like how beautiful it was to like share your life with somebody, but then you see the decline, and he talks about how like people like change and grow, and like they just grew apart, and it's just like really got me. There's something about like when you're showing a scene but you're hearing a different audio, it's like not matching. It just like gets me so much when I'm not hearing the audio match the visual. It's just that really got me in the feels big time. So I just thought that was one of my favorite scenes. And I've already brought up a lot of my other favorite scenes. Like here, I'll just like quickly touch on them. The quote that Amy Adams talked about, like that I carried with me after the movie was over. When people talk about how, like, when I'm reminded about like how short my existence is potentially, like even if I live like a long old life, I'm still relatively here for a very short amount of time, and I just liked how she just wanted to just like make the most of it while she was here, kind of thing. And another funny part that I thought was really just like framed it all perfectly was when Chris Pratt was complimenting him on his writing, like behind his shoulder. He was writing letters, and then he was trying to pay him, and he was trying to pay Theo like a genuine compliment, but he ended up stumbling over it. He was like, I would like if I was a chick, I would love to get that letter, and then that's written by a dude, but it's from a chick. It's just like, funny. Yeah, that's it.
There's loads of moments where Chris Pratt in this really reminded me of Pat.
Any more?
I think my favorite scene is the ending scene where it's just obviously him and Amy go out into the balcony, whatever roof, and just looking out, reflecting on things, and you can tell that Theo's in a much better place, and he's learned some key lessons from this, and it's been a really helpful experience for him. That maybe if he'd gone to therapy, he would have learned some of the similar things. This was like his therapy without him intending to, because he wasn't ready.
He
Obviously,
still needs therapy.
yeah, he still needs therapy, but yeah, it's kind of like a cathartic moment at the end, and it's like one of the first moments where I'm like, yes, you get it now. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, it's the first moment. It's a moment where we see him have a genuine human connection with an. It's not the first moment we see that, but it's one of those moments where we see him have a genuine human connection with an actual human, which is just like, oh, I'm happy for you, bud. Like, you needed that. Get out a bit more, make some more friends.
Yeah, touch some grass.
Go outside.
Well, speaking of touching grass, I think we could all use some touching of grass, and also and that's not a mean thing. It's just like everybody needs that as a healthy thing, and also just like I'm of the opinion that like most people could benefit from therapy. I think most people.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Just randomly, I know it might be a quick detour before we finish, but it's like, one thing my dad mentioned is that it wasn't his literal interpretation of the ending. He was like, oh, the ending could be interpreted this way, and I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. He said that in some way that he thought for a split second that Joaquin's character of Theodore took what was her name, Amy up to the roof, and they were both going to commit suicide. What happened to them? They're both mutually were like.
Second. I was like, are they about to jump off the roof?
Yeah. But my dad was like, oh, no, of course they're not. But he mentioned that, and I was like, hang on, that's interesting, because it kind of like one interpretation of the ending could be like, they could have had this darker end to it all, is that they both went through this trauma of having this relationship with this fictional, well, not fictional, but just like this synthetic person, this synthetic partner. And they were both mutually like, yeah, this is it. What else can we do? He wrote a letter to his ex-wife to kind of like close the book on everything. And that was that, yeah, what else are they going to live for? And so I didn't personally take it as that, because it seemed like this is just more them just being like reminiscing of what they've been and what they've been experienced as a mutual kind of thing. And they just wanted to go to the roof to get some fresh air and just admire the city and just be like, yeah, life is great, and we've got a new chapter ahead of us. We're going to start off afresh. Both of us together will become better people, and we'll find a new love of our life at some point. So that's kind of that hopeful ending that I took it to be. But I could see that, yeah, some people will be like more pessimistic and be like, actually, this could be quite a dark way. But I suppose that's quite good about the film, is that it has this ambiguousness about it. It could be interpreted that way as well, because of the dangers of what AI do to people and how it could mess people up. And yeah, but hopefully we're not going to go in that route as humanity. We'll just like to have some hope there. It's like, yeah, Theodore and Amy will move on. Touch wood.
I just thought of something. Two things. Sorry, did you want to go ahead, Emmanuel? I thought of something.
Well, you can go first. I'll go after you.
Okay. So that flashed through my mind the possibility that something bad was like that was going to happen. And I think it wasn't like I'm sure partially it could have just been my frame of like reference and just like my life experience, like not to get too dark, but like but also one of the shots was like literally focused on the edge of the building. So I'm just like, where is this going? But I think another thing that just occurred to me is how like I think for me how I interpreted them sitting together, a question mark was put in my was in my head that maybe they were going to reconnect and explore a romantic connection again. And I like how that was left up in the air. And I just realized that there's a parallel in that, how Samantha said, like, I'm over here now. If you ever get here, maybe, look for me and maybe we'll reconnect in the same way again. And in the story, Theo and Amy did date briefly and he just said it wasn't right or something like that. And maybe now he's grown to be in a more compatible place with Amy. So maybe they're going to reconnect again. And so like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought it left space for them to maybe get together.
Yeah, very interesting. Another good what if. What could happen?
True.
Yeah.
True. Before I say, so did you say your favorite scene?
No, but I think mine have all been said, except from it's just a really nice moment. I liked it at his goddaughter's birthday party when she comes in and it's like, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, it's my girlfriend. And I don't think we'd heard him describe her as being his girlfriend before that point. So it's quite a nice moment. And it's how he says she's an operating system, and his girlfriend and his goddaughter's like, okay, and like it's just really sweet. It's the sweetest little thing.
Why do you live in a computer?
I was supposed to be like a dragon trapped me in it or something because it's a 4-year-old. She can say stupid things like that, and it's
that was really sweet.
And she's like, how old are you? And then the little girl's like,
5.
I am adorable. She's 4.
Oh, well, she says, guess how old I am.
Yeah, I thought it was just really cute.
It is.
Sorry, go on.
My point was going off the back of Ben's, so it feels bad to say it now, but because it made sense with what he said. I thought how the just before it ended, when Samantha left him, and they all went to be in that kind of special AI operating system place with each other to become something more or whatever. I was just like, man, if there was ever a sequel, this could go in so many bad ways, or kind of is it not apocalyptic? It's what's it called when you have a bad view in a future situation? Dystopian, yeah. This could, thank you. I explained it very badly. This could go in so many just horrible dystopian future versions.
Yes. A tiny bit dystopian already.
But it's more on the kind of, it's not as harmful. It can be harmful, but it's not on the kind of properly type of harmful dystopia.
For that person,
to
that
It's not-
extent. But
It's
a
not
lot
Mad
of
Max.
yeah, but like dystopian movies can also be where it like looks lovely on the surface, but then like what's that Christian Bale, Sean Bean movie I'm thinking of? Equilibrium, where like the people who live in the city who like follow the rules, they're all living a nice life, but it's very much dystopian. Like it can be dystopian and look nice just because there's a really dodgy, like unsettling element to the way that life works in that world.
Yeah. I mean,
the Dread universe.
I would say that's two like sci-fi concepts just clashing together. It's solar punk mixed with cyberpunk crashing together in the most because there's two levels, but when it crashes together, it makes sense. I mean that's man, I haven't thought about equilibrium for ages. I guess it's just like talking about power struggles and like the concept of like the wealth gap. But sorry, we're getting distracted. Sorry, I guess it's just like it made me think about it. I haven't thought about that movie for ages. Oh wait, is that your pick?
No.
So no one picked it.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
I haven't seen it. I don't think I've seen
It's a
it.
good film.
Oh, yeah, it is good. It has been a long time,
I
but
know Sean Bean's cousin.
but
Sean Bean's and Dan Bean, he and Chippy and Sheffield. Just can I mention Sean
No,
Bean?
I understand.
I know his cousin.
No, I understand the context of why you're saying it now. I'm just surprised I didn't know before.
No, I've talked to you before.
Oh, sorry.
oh, cool. Nice. But it's good. It's good conversation. And if you, in another way, this film could be a prequel to many different things. So Simon mentioned Cyberpunk 2070, which, if you don't know, amazing. But yeah, it's its own dystopian, like crazy dystopian, great game. Still a bit buggy. Anyway, like Blade Runner itself. This could be an early precursor to Blade Runner. It could be a precursor to Terminator. Like it's like when the actual Terminator War. Like
Yeah, I was gonna make
It's
that
not even
thing.
like it's a
You said about there
precursor. It
being a
could be
sequel.
happening in the same universe,
I think we'll
just in
get
a
more
different
films
place.
around this kind of topic anyway, kind of over the next few years as well. I think we'll
Yeah,
get more
definitely.
around this.
yeah, because like we learned in media studies, sci-fi as a genre or a whole does a lot of putting our worries and fears of the future into a filmic form for us to digest now, but can also be a way of getting us to think, wait, if that could happen in the future, maybe we should kind of try and stop that from happening.
Yeah.
Which then creates this whole interesting conversation where you have some people like, I mean, I'm not going to say names, but you have some people in some companies who try to create what we've seen in those sci-fi films, and you have other people who are trying to stop them from making it because we've already seen the imagined possible outcome. So why are you trying to make it happen? Stop it.
But what's also the case is like these like dystopian like potential bad futures. Like I think they're also sometimes often just like an exaggeration of what's happening to us already. So yeah,
It's true. Like even like not to go too deep into it, I was thinking films like quite a few films around the time of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff, like made around the idea that wait, what if the Russians take over America? What if like there are tons of sleeper agents and all this stuff and things happen? Like what if this actually happens? Or what if we go into another Cold War? Or like it's like all these kind of things. Or what if Russia invades? It's just like, oh yeah, taking real life things or past things and projecting them. It's like, yeah, what could happen?
That's why I've always loved Godzilla so much, because it's like, on the surface it's a monster movie, but when you look at it in the context of a country that's just been bombed to shit from a world war, and it's like how they're dealing with that and recovering from it and what lessons they've learned from it and all of that kind of stuff. It's like, man, this is like one of the most hopeful films ever. Like it's like it on the surface it is about shooting down a big lizard, but when you think of it in terms of like community spirit and people coming together, it's like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I wish the one we watched was better. It had potential.
Which one did you watch?
Remember the Japanese? the Japanese one we watched that we couldn't get like proper.
Oh, you mean the one that we
Oh.
shared the DVD one, right? The
Shin
John
Godzilla.
picked, right? Shin Godzilla.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like that's.
No, like that wasn't like. I mean, it was it wasn't executed in the best way, but it was an interesting take. Like, just loads of like government officials being like, "Shit, what do we do?"
Yeah, that was a film about bureaucracy, not about a monster.
That was as John was discussing, as we discussed it with John as well. It was more about the politics, and that's why Pat didn't like it. It was a bit too much about the politics, but I think the politics side is quite interesting to see. But you know. It's half and half. That's why with -1, it was the spirit of like people, but like the ending was a cop out.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, but no. The ending was a cop out a bit. But
chop off that last 15 minutes. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. But
favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, mine kind of got. Everyone made reference to my choices.
It's okay. You can.
Yeah, you could have two favorite. You can have the same favorite scene.
Exactly.
Ben, did you have a different favorite scene?
It's ones that must have been discussed, but I think one of the nicest moments probably was when they go to the beach, and he just talks to Samantha about. Oh, isn't the human body just weird? And she actually just kind of draws a tiny little sketch of like how the human. I was like, oh yeah, what if that our arsehole was in the armpit, kind of thing? And it was just so stupidly ludicrous, but it was just silly. But it was just like, yeah, that was just humor and human side coming through in that moment, and they just had this moment of bonding about something stupid and silly and hilarious and. Yeah, it was just them, just like her trying to live the life she would have as a human, just through him, and him just being, just absorbing the world around him, kind of thing. So there's moments like that was just really touching.
That was another scene that I related to as well, because I was like, that's our humour. Like that's just like we say something stupid and then. Make a meme. Like that's
yeah.
Yeah, that's literally what happened with us. I was very much into memes, and then you got me and making them too.
Yeah. Yeah, how good.
Any more before? Was that you, Ben, in the It Good in the spreadsheet?
Yeah, that was that wasn't Pat. That wasn't Alec. That was me.
Any final comments, thoughts before we hand over to Ben?
Like James is very.
Sorry.
As like a final thought, I guess, for this film, it's best to say it like this: with the concept of AI and stuff that we've talked about, as terrible as the scary Terminator side of it is. It can be designed to be quite beautiful if you use poetry and art to make the AI instead of us like hate. So if you was to make an AI that was just filled with everyone's hope, love, and dreams, it would be quite a nice thing. But that's only if we as people describe AI and talk to AI about love, hope, and dreams. So if we keep spreading that around and like the algorithm keep spreading love, hope, and dreams, I think we'll be okay. But until that happens, AI needs to be just slowed down just a little bit.
Just need to like cordon it away from like Reddit and Twitter.
That's a whole other ball game. I think we gotta slowly change that. Okay.
Oh yeah, Reddit have their own making their own search engine now.
Man, that's a terrible idea.
I say search engine. It's search engine within Reddit. To kind of.
That's still a terrible idea. Yeah, but like
why do they need to? Because the search function's like it's pretty good. Like it's
no, because you have to understand it connects because Reddit is like the stepping stone, like just like a couple doors down from like dark web stuff. To be honest, it gets really weird. It's just like it's like if you turn the corner, it goes into I'm on the wrong side of the internet. Like that's like I think there's literally a Reddit page called the bad side of the internet. So let's just not. It's like I think it's called like it'll ruin your day. It's images that ruin your day. So like you click it and you go, well, my day is ruined. I feel like you can't. It's just like I can't. I believe. Why am I on here? I just was curious, but my day is ruined. That's just like that's the way it is.
4chan. It becomes 4chan.
No,
That's different level of that's next to the dark web. That's the one door down. That's why I said 2 doors down. So it's like, let's not talk about 4chan because they might actually listen to this, and we've got to apologize to 4chan people. That's not. I mean, yeah, with respect for if anyone from 4chan is listening, we don't want to talk about you. It's just we're just your party comments.
Oh man, I was gonna. There's 2 things. One thing to end on, but before that, to answer Rob's question, a lot of people append Reddit to their Google searches to see what people say on Reddit. So they've thought if we improve stuff on Reddit itself, it might help drive a bit more traffic to just Reddit itself and have people use our search function more. But
Is it like an interface kind of thing rather than a whole new engine?
yeah, basically. And I forgot to say this, but Scarlett Johansson had previously voiced an operating system dating her male owner in an episode called Donkey Punch, not the movie, on Robot Chicken.
Oh,
That's interesting.
Oh.
There was quite a few famous names like M. Night Shyamalan was part of it. I think even Dave Grohl was in that episode. There was a lot of just well-known people who, whatever reason, was on this episode. Huh?
Yeah.
You're just talking nonsense, don't worry.
Oh man, but yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah. Ben, what is your pick for next week?
Oh yes.
If you're still with us.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. Basically, it's not quite a Christmas film, but I think it does have the Christmas spirit. And it's a film that me and Rob like very much. And we have both been fighting for it for a while, but I was like, no, sorry. I sort of said I was going to do it last year, and I didn't. So I'm going to do it this year, and it's going to be a Tim Burton classic, another one. It's Edward Scissorhands. The first collaboration with Johnny Depp. And,
I've never seen it.
And yeah, I thought it has to be involved in Film Club because it's one of my favourite Burton films.
If you didn't do it today, I was going to commandeer it for family round.
Yeah, it has been a very long time since I've seen that film.
Me and my mum must have watched this like hundreds of times when I was growing up, man. I still love it, but I loved it so much when I was a kid.
I feel like it does have that Christmas vibe, and you know what it is. I think it's part of like that movies that were played around Christmas time. That's why I probably have a decent memory of it as well. That's a good pick.
Yeah, it came out in the summer of '92 or something like that, or I can't remember. And then it came out on video around Christmas. I think that's how it kind of had that like lasting festive connection.
I thought you said it came out in 1990.
Maybe I'm wrong. It was definitely after Batman, after Beetlejuice.
It's on Disney Plus. That's where you can watch it. It is on in 1990. That's what it says.
1990. Yeah. So it was the year of me, Rob, and Simon and Emmanuel's birth.
Yeah.
Wow, this film is all this us. Wow.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I watched it for Christmas last year, so it's a Christmas movie. Sure.
Interesting. I have never watched it for Christmas.
I think Scissorhands is the reason because
because I loved it so much when I was a kid, and because my mum loved it so much as well. I think that's why we went to see Big Fish in the cinema, because it was Tim Burton, and so
Oh.
in a roundabout way, Edward Scissorhands is responsible for me finding my favourite film.
Is Big Fish your favorite film?
Yeah, man. I love
It's a very, very good film, to be honest.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's been a long time though. I'd love to rewatch it. Has it been a film pick already?
Yes.
Yeah, like round 3 or 4.
I remember when it was my first pick, so I was about to like say what it was, and I remember Ben was like, "Oh, can I guess what it is?" And I was like, "Yeah, go on then." And he was like, "Is it Big Fish?" And I was like, "Not yet, man. I can't." Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was my third pick because I felt like I couldn't do it straight away, and then it's silly to look back now, but we got to our third pick, and I was like, "I better pick it now before Film Club stops."
Oh yeah, best pick around.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's
Go back in time and join Film Club the year before.
Big Fish is a good film.
Yeah, it's great. Lovely.
I do have now questions of because it is near Christmas, so what we're doing for end of year round. I don't know what's happening anymore.
Are you coming down to Irvington?
I cannot. I have too much work and too much stuff.
If we're not coming down, then we'll have to arrange something in London to get together.
We will, but like that's well, I've got to sort out my everything. You have to sort out everything. My life is full of work and more work and more work. Makes Jack a dull boy. Actually, have you guys picked that yet?
What's that?
The Shining.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
It was around before you joined, I think.
Oh, okay, cool.
The Shannon.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna have to get to sleep soon, or I'm gonna not wake up.
It's 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more next week.
Yeah, we'll talk next week, and I will sort out the end of year trophies or whatever our compilations is.
Oh, I still need to. I think I missed some rounds to nominate. I think I still need to. How do I figure out which ones I haven't done yet?
That's a good question. I'm working.
Yeah, Alec's usually the one that bugs people to do it. So.
Usually Alec will ask and then he'll like put a note on the spreadsheet, but because he hasn't been doing it, I don't know if anyone has.
I voted for mine, then I got told off.
Yeah, well, no, you.
What I want.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of anyone or anything.
Alright. Kiss. Okay, go save Edward Scissorhands first on the thing, and then I think that should be end of this. So, last note before I log off, I sent into the spoiler chat the little short film about like the problems with like I say AI and like people divulging too much into AI. It's a very interesting short film, and I think you guys will see like the problems of it as well. But that's for another. That's a talk for another time. But for now, good evening, good afternoon, good night. All right.
Bye. Take care.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Just before we go to bed.